What is going on, guys? Thank you so very much for joining us right here on Tuesday night. It is Tuesday Night Titans episode 64 for your Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024. I am your host, JD from New York, as always, joined by the one and only, the Solid Monster himself. What's going on, brother?
Oh, it's one of those days, man. It's one of those days.
Yeah,
why did I get up out of bed?
The hair is down, bro. I could tell it's one of those days.
Why did I get up out of bed today? I just don't know.
I don't know, man. Listen, the summer's over. The summer's over. It's in the 70s. It's not all that bad. Windows were open last night. It was beautiful. No air conditioner. Same thing tonight. We got a hot crowd in here tonight. We got wrestling news to go over. It's not all that bad.
No. It's better now than it was before.
We got a lot to get into, guys. Thank you very much for joining us here on Tuesday night. We are going to jump into the Bash in Berlin discussion. Monday Night Raw leading into Bad Blood. We had a lot happen on Monday Night Raw last night. We had a certain CM Punk eating his own bracelet. The bracelet is now destroyed. Drew McIntyre is really pushing Punk's buttons. But where does it all go? I'm curious to see what the discussion will bring tonight, because I brought up something on my show last night that I'm not sure Jason brought up because I didn't listen to his Raw review. But I'm very curious to see what he thinks about the creative direction. If I had the pen for Bad Blood between Punk and McIntyre. We'll also go over the WWE World Heavyweight Championship situation. Gunther and Sami Zayn on collision course again for the World Heavyweight Championship. Possibly at Bad Blood. We don't really know yet. That got started on Monday night. Braun Breaker and Jey Uso for the IC title. Looking like it's going to be a showdown between those two. And then we got the Odyssey Jones situation. We will briefly discuss that tonight. We got the Swerve and Daniel Garcia contract talks with WWE, saying that it's bad for the business, bad for the sport, blah, blah, blah. Nice of WWE to police how much pro wrestlers make nowadays. And we will get into a bunch of other shit. But we want to thank you guys for joining us here on episode 64. You guys know what to do. Find us all over social media, on YouTube. Everything you need is linked down below in the description. And make sure you guys get those super chats in. Let's start the month of September off hot, man. It's going to be a big month. I feel it. So get those super chats in. Any questions, comments, and concerns, we will answer them at the end of the show. And please make sure you guys go out there and hit that subscribe button down below, as well as on Jason's end. Go and find all of his information, social and YouTube, linked down below in the description. And I'm not sure if you guys are aware, we don't really have a platform where we will be streaming yet. That will be announced hopefully within the next 24 hours. But Jason and I will be in Chicago on Thursday. Isn't that right, Commissioner?
That is correct. Yes.
We will be in Chicago. Our debut in Chicago.
It is our debut in Chicago. I've been to Chicago before. It's a lovely city. I know you've been there as well. And I'm looking forward, because I know that there are some people who listen to us, at least some who are also going to be there. So it's always fun to meet people at the show. So hopefully we get to see some of you guys there.
Should be a good night. Dijak's on the card. Ali is on the show. Mike Santana, the great Mike Santana, is on the show as well, defending that HOG World title against Dijak. And we got Zilla Fatu showing up again. He's the new HOG Crown Jewel champion. Megan Bain is on the show. It's going to be a loaded one on Thursday. So hopefully we got you guys see us there, and we see you there, and you guys turn up for our debut in Chicago for House of Glory. But other than that, as always, Jason, sound us off, man. What do you want to talk about?
Let's go back to Berlin. Let's talk about the Bash in Berlin, which was on Saturday. I have been enjoying these midday pay-per-view. We had them back-to-back weekends, which is very strange. We had one for AEW, we had one for WWE, and it's always nice to not finish in the wee hours, right? When you're doing these streams, it's always nice to just, be able to go do something else at the end of the night and decompress and have a little bit of time. Although, in my case, I'm always doing the Sunday show, so I didn't have much time really for anything. But
it is a little difficult. I love it. It's much better. Don't get me wrong, but it is a little difficult because at that point, you wake up, you watch the show, and then most of the day is gone already. By the time you and I finish streaming, we finish around 6:30, 7 o'clock. We have dinner, and then at that point, I don't know, I was on my couch drinking a cocktail watching AEW Collision, and then I went to sleep. So the whole day was gone.
Well, it's funny, actually, because I mentioned the same thing. I had a late dinner, and I was so stuffed that I was sitting there. I didn't want to move, so I watched Collision. So that's why I watched Collision this weekend. It was because I couldn't move. So I was like, I may as well check out what's going on. And I put the show on, and I saw Ishii and Kyle Fletcher. And they were throwing forearms back and forth. And I'm like, okay, you know, we've seen this before. And then they just kept going and going and going and going. And I was like, what is this?
It was legitimately the same spot that him and Paige did on Wednesday.
No, but this was the longest exchange I've ever seen in my life. It just never ended.
Oh man, listen, man. I know it's your favorite show, man. Don't tease the audience. This is why AEW Collision is flourishing now, man. It's unbelievable. What a show it is. So good. Come on, Tony.
I don't know.
Get with the program, Tony. Come on, man. Nobody's watching that shit. Give me a break.
I don't know.
Berlin, though. We all watched Berlin.
We did. We watched Berlin, and I thought it was a very good show. I do wonder, and I mentioned this on my review, how much longer WWE is going to be able to do this sort of thing, where you have these 5-match international cards, and they're all very predictable, which doesn't make it a bad show. Again, it was a very good show, but they're very you can close your eyes and you can pretty much script out the entire show in your head and not get anything wrong. And so how much longer are they going to be able to keep doing shows like this? I figured they could keep going as long as they find new cities and new locations they haven't been to before, because every time they go someplace new, you get a hot crowd like we saw in Berlin. But you would think at some point, yeah, that may change.
Yeah, I agree with you. These shows are very...
I mean, you can set your watch to it.
Yeah, I don't want to say they're all predictable. Not every match is predictable, but for the most part, they are. It does feel like an in-between show for all the major shows. Nothing terribly exciting happens there. You know, the narrative that WWE doesn't put on great pro wrestling can die because these are the shows. You know what they remind me of? They remind me of the in-your-house shows, because the in-your-house shows, honestly, you know, there wasn't anything major built around them, but to me, that's the way I saw it. You go to those shows to watch great pro wrestling. There was a lot of great pro wrestling on those in-your-house shows, and I feel the same way about these little in-between international shows. WWE, I don't know what type of narrative they're running, but for the last 3 international shows, they've been the highest-grossing arena shows in the history of WWE. France was the one that broke the record. Then they broke their own record with Scotland, and then they broke their own record in Berlin. So it's like...
Now they did that, though, with 13,000 people in the building, which, hey, 13,000, good crowd, but they've had crowds much bigger than that. So you can imagine what they were charging for tickets to the show. If they're setting their all-time record, this company is, 70-something years old, and off a crowd of 13,000 people, they set their gate record. And then I love how they send the announcer out there into the ring to brag about the fact that they broke the gate record, and everybody cheers. And I just will never not find this funny, because think about what they're going out there and bragging about, right? We made more money on this show than we ever have before. And how did they make more money on this show than ever before? By jacking up ticket prices as high as they could possibly jack them up, because the demand is there. So, I mean, look, I don't blame them. It's just a weird thing to go out there and flex and have everybody cheer and go, yay! It's like... realize what's going on here? It's just kind of strange to me.
It's amazing. What was the rumor going around that Scotland was $500 per ticket?
Something like that? A rumor. No, there wasn't a rumor. I mean, look, there were people who... I had 2 people who were in Germany who emailed me. And one person went to the show, one person didn't, because they just couldn't afford it. And again, some of these prices were just insane. But the product is hot, and it's the novelty of it being the first PLE they ever had there. So, I mean, they were able to get 13,000. I don't know if that was officially a sellout or not. So good on them. They keep setting these records, but I just think to keep going out there and bragging about it and people cheer for it like it's some great accomplishment. I'm like, you people are paying these ridiculous prices and helping them break these records. And there are a lot of people who do get shut out because, you know, it's like, at some point, you got to look at it and go, look, I'm not going to spend this money, you know, to go. And if you want to go as a family, let's say you got 2 kids, forget about it.
Well, let me ask you. I've always said for years, people looked at me like I had 6 heads. The takeover model, obviously it works. It worked then. I knew Triple H was going to kind of continue the ball rolling with that model. Do you feel like 5 matches is too little? Like, would it be beneficial for them to add maybe a 6th match? Because I know what they've been doing is 5 on these international shows. The major shows like a SummerSlam or some of the other bigger shows maybe get 6 matches, 7 matches. SummerSlam had, I think 7 is a proper number for a pay-per-view. I think 5 is too little. How do you feel about the overall 5-match format for these international shows?
It doesn't bother me that much. I think adding a sixth would be fine. But it doesn't, I don't want them obviously to just overflow the show, but you got to remember something here. The way WWE structures these shows, look at what they do. You know how much time goes by sometimes in between matches? And it's commercials, it's video packages.
I wish AEW would take a little bit of a hint and do that. I don't want 15 minutes in between matches, but give me a fucking video package, something.
Well, yeah, and sometimes they do that, but they don't do that enough. I agree. But sometimes it's excessive. The amount of time that will go by, and it's like, holy shit, it's been fucking 20 minutes since the last match. And it's a pay-per-view. It's one thing for that to be a television show. So, but that's just the way they do things. And you see, they will go a full 3 hours off of 5 matches. That's why they do it. So yeah, adding a sixth one sometimes when there's a match that really deserves to be on there and belongs on there would be fine with me. I do think that the model they will eventually migrate to, and you're already seeing it with SummerSlam, those big shows are going to go to 2 nights. So when they go to 2 nights, it'll allow them to have a larger card. They'll separate it. Maybe it'll be like 7 and 7, maybe 6 and 6. We know SummerSlam is going 2 nights. I believe at some point Royal Rumble will go 2 nights. Maybe even a Money in the Bank or an Elimination Chamber eventually. I think that will probably end up being the model, at least for the main shows, going forward. And so they'll be able to have more matches. But it doesn't bother me the way it bothers other people. Maybe because it's all part of the Peacock subscription. Maybe if I had to pay on top of the AEW shows, if I had to pay $50 for the WWE shows and I was getting 5 matches and 1 million commercials, I might not like that so much. But it's kind of baked in at this point. I'm just so used to, I pay, the one fee for Peacock every month, and it just feels like you get these shows for free. So maybe that's why it doesn't bother me as much. Whereas with AEW, you're still paying, that $50 a month.
Yeah. One of the other problems that I do have with it as well is a lot of these shows are very Monday Night Raw forward. SmackDown is usually getting the shaft here. There were 2 SmackDown matches on Berlin. We got Cody and Kevin Owens, and then we got the women's tag team title match. But the women's tag team title match didn't really mean much of anything. So in my honest opinion, there was only 1 match from SmackDown that anybody really cared about. But they are very Monday Night Raw forward, which says a lot about the handling of SmackDown, which we need to kind of get things in motion there and get some major stories happening over there.
But that's why you got a U.S. title match and a women's title match on Friday instead of Saturday. Because they were getting the shaft, and it really was only 1 SmackDown match, technically. Well, actually, somebody pointed out to me, and it's a fair point, Randy Orton was in the World Heavyweight title match, and he's a SmackDown guy. So, I guess you could stretch it a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. Well, they played that entire story out on Monday. He didn't even show up on Friday night for the 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But Bash in Berlin broke the record for the all-time gate record for WWE for an arena show. They will break that record next time they go to an international PLE, whether that's Italy. That's heavily rumored. I think Italy will be the next backlash destination.
Could be Mexico at some point.
Could be Mexico as well. That would be very interesting. But we did get a great show on Saturday afternoon. Some people didn't like it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a very good wrestling show. Which was highlighted by bookended by 2 great championship matches, Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes, and then Gunther and Randy Orton. I guess we'll start with Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens, being that they opened the show. I know a lot of people, Jason, going into this didn't really care too much for the story, and it was all hindering on, is Cody 100%? Is Kevin Owens going to turn? Kevin Owens at first didn't really want this championship match because he felt like he didn't deserve it. Cody kind of lured him in and trolled him into this championship match. And then the story became, is Kevin Owens going to remain good guy Kevin Owens, or is he going to turn his back on everybody that he's turned his back on, and now Cody Rhodes? And then we got the is Cody 100% storyline, which kind of played out in the match. The knee kind of was the focus there for Cody for a little bit. And Kevin Owens was kind of going in and out of it. Should I take advantage of this? And he thought better of himself, and he was good guy Kevin Owens in the end, which obviously cost him the match and the World Heavyweight Championship. I thought the match was great, and this continues the string of Cody Rhodes' great in-ring pro wrestling matches for his title reign. There's not much story, but as far as what we're getting as far as Cody the wrestler, I think Cody wrestling AJ twice, and Kevin Owens and Logan Paul. The solo match is a blemish because that was fucking terrible. But for the most part, his title run has been great pro wrestling. I think after this, and we'll talk about where we think this is going, Man, does he need a fucking story, bro? I don't know what we're doing here. I know you think that we're getting Kevin Owens and Cody Part 2 going into Bad Blood. I don't really think that's necessary. I would go right to the Randy feud. But what'd you think of the match? And I guess we'll start off with you. Where do you see this shit going?
I thought the match was stellar. I thought it was a great, like you said, professional wrestling match. It told a very basic story. The knee injury story aspect was only introduced 24 hours before on SmackDown. It was very sudden. But I liked it because, Cody trying to like deflect from it. He didn't want to talk about it. And then all of a sudden in the middle of the match, that one little hiccup there where his knee buckled and the look on Kevin Owens' face and he couldn't bring himself, which in a way, and I can understand people thinking it was goofy. Like you're in the middle of a WWE title match and you see your opponent has a weakness and he doesn't want to go after the knee because he's such a good guy. But he did kind of explain that on Friday where he said, look, even after 8 years, it still bugs me that people think I didn't deserve to be the Universal Champion because Triple H, interfered in that match and helped me win the title. And it still bothers me. So he didn't want to have to deal with people saying, oh, the only reason you beat Cody is because he has a bad knee. So at least they attempted to explain why Owens would act that way. And like you said, in the end, because he lacked that killer instinct, the Kevin Owens of old wouldn't have hesitated to go after that. But it cost him. I was 50-50 going into this match, whether or not we were going to get a Kevin Owens heel turn. When the match was over and he hugged Cody and he embraced him, I'm a lot closer to 100% now that Kevin Owens is going to go heel. And regardless of what ends up happening with Randy Orton, because you could have them both go heel in the next few months. It's not like SmackDown couldn't use heels at the top of the card. Everybody is kind of freaking out about Cody and Solo of Bad Blood. I'm not, and I'll tell you why. And we'll get our answer on Friday because Cody is going to address Solo Sikoa. SmackDown is moving to USA next week. I do not see a reason why we need to wait until Bad Blood to do that match. I think Cody and Solo is absolutely going to happen, but I think it happens next Friday. Because it gives you a big main event, a big title match that you can promote for that first SmackDown. And I think also that's why Roman Reigns was pulled from the advertising, because he was scheduled to be on that show and then his name disappeared from WWE.com on the listing. And I think it's because when he shows up on that show, they want it to be a surprise. So I don't think we're getting it at Bad Blood. I think we're going to get Cody and Solo next Friday. Cody will retain. I think we're going to get Roman Reigns back. I think we're going to get a Kevin Owens heel turn. And we're going to get the rematch between he and KO and Cody for the title at Bad Blood.
I have a question. Why does everybody feel Kevin Owens needs to go heel? Is it something that people want to see because they're tired of babyface Owens? Does it make sense for the story for him to go heel? To me, I don't know why Kevin Owens would go heel and get another match with Cody Rhodes when he's just inevitably going to lose. What would that? Yeah, we get another heel on SmackDown, but what does that really do in the long term for Kevin Owens?
Well, you said it right there. Number one, it gets us another heel on SmackDown. Even if he doesn't beat Cody to win the title, which, by the way, I wouldn't completely discount the possibility if they do what I just said, that he wouldn't beat Cody. Now, would you do that with Owens and then turn around and do the same thing with Randy Orton? I wouldn't do that. And of the two, I'd rather see Orton, frankly, take the title from Cody and have Cody chase him to get it back. Even if he goes to Bad Blood, he loses again. And let's say he's done. Cody's moving on to somebody else. Owens is a heel again. There's other people for him to work with on that show. You can, you look ahead. Who's LA Knight going to feud with for the United States Championship? Why not an LA Knight, Kevin Owens feud for the US title, right? We haven't seen that match before. So it's not like there aren't other faces, other names for him to work with on that show. Owens has been a babyface now for a while. Kevin Owens is a better heel than a babyface, and he's a damn good babyface. It's been a while since we've seen heel Kevin Owens. It's not a matter of why do people feel it has to happen. I'm just saying, based on what I saw at the end of that match on Saturday, I'm watching Kevin Owens. I'm looking at his face. I'm watching him. That just screamed heel turn to me. The story they told in the match screamed heel turn to me because he realizes now, like, I could have won the championship. I've gone soft. And that's going to drive him to a place that he used to be in. Because we know we've seen that Kevin Owens before. Why wouldn't he go back to that guy after what happened on Saturday? It's got to be embarrassing for him. He had him. He knows he fucked up. So, like, story-wise, why wouldn't he want to revert back to the way he used to be to then try to win the championship back? So I'm just saying, common sense-wise, it struck me as, oh, okay, I think we are going to get a heel turn here. And it could happen on that same show. It could happen. I mean, you want some big things to go down on SmackDown next week. I mean, you could have Cody against Solo, Roman comes back, fights off with him in the bloodline, and still have Kevin Owens do the turn on that show.
What if all that happens and Randy Orton turns heel instead of Kevin Owens on Cody?
Well, I mean, you could do that too, but then what? So are we going with the story that I've been talking about, where it's just like he's tired of losing?
Yes.
Maybe he's a little offended that
my whole thing was coming out of Saturday. I think Randy's obviously going to go back to Friday night because he has no business anymore on Monday Night Raw, and he's going to look at Kevin Owens and say, I don't know if he's going to say anything, but he'll look at Kevin Owens and he won't make the same mistake that Kevin Owens makes. He'll look at Kevin Owens as a disappointment. And if that was presented to him, Randy Orton is not going to do what Kevin Owens did in that match with Cody Rhodes, and he would take advantage of Cody, even though he did tell Cody that he would be side by side with him battling the bloodline. Something should happen on Friday next week where Randy gets involved with Cody and he gets beaten down. He's just sick of losing and sick of being a backup. And then we get the RKO, and then we get Cody and Randy at Bad Blood. There's 3 weeks. There's enough time to tell us a story there between that SmackDown and Bad Blood. I would even listen. I'm going all guns blazing here. I'd take the title of Cody. I put it on Randy at Bad Blood, and I would have them feud for the rest of the winter. And Kevin Owens, I don't know where he fits in there. Maybe he stays babyface and really is good guy Kevin Owens, or you can even turn him heel and have him help Randy beat Cody, and then they're a duo and they're a heel duo on SmackDown.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I mean, though. I mean, there's a few different ways you can go with this, and if you want to turn them both, I don't really see a problem with that. So you could go in that direction. And I actually kind of like that idea too that you propose, where a lot of people maybe think, okay, Owens is going to go heel, but it's actually Orton who hits him with the RKO out of nowhere, and maybe Owens then wrestles Randy. Like, what are you doing? So maybe we get Owens and Orton in a match, then we get Orton and Cody. Yeah, I mean, you could do that too, and I would like that idea too. But just looking at Kevin Owens and what the best thing is to do with Kevin Owens. I mean, what his whole gimmick before was, right? He was a prize fighter. Like, we've seen that side of Kevin Owens. Why would he just continue doing the same old thing after what happened on Saturday? That's my thing. I'm looking at him like, where are we going with him? A guy who supposedly has a contract coming up soon. I don't think he's going anywhere, but like, where does he go from here? Why wouldn't he go heel? Has he just gone soft? That's it? And he's just going to continue to feud with Grayson Waller and Austin Theory and Carmelo Hayes.
Fuck that.
I mean, so like, I'm trying to look at this like, okay, where does everybody fit? If you do that, if you turn him heel and you get one more match out of him and Cody, it's not like you can't bring it back to Cody and Randy. They have to. I mean, they're going to, I'm sure, and they have to. And I'm with you. I would have no issue putting the title on Randy Orton and having Cody chase him all the way, whether it's the Rumble. Ideally, it would be WrestleMania, but The Rock is lurking in the background, and we don't know what's going on with him. So there's a few different options I think that they could go with. Turning them both heel, not at the same time necessarily, but turning them both heel, I'm okay with that. Gives Cody more obstacles to have to overcome. It's not like he has anything going on right now. Otherwise, they don't have any other heels for him.
No, and we will discuss who those heels could be. Obviously, Randy and KO are two. I'm going to bring one to the table here that I don't know if Jason's thinking about or not. I'm very curious to see what he thinks. We'll get to it in this discussion. But yeah, I like where that's going. Does Roman Reigns wrestle at Bad Blood? If he's going to show up as a surprise, they pulled him, like you said, from the advertisements. I guess they want to keep that a surprise on September 13th. Does he wrestle Solo Sikoa potentially at Bad Blood, or does he wrestle at all at Bad Blood?
He has to wrestle a Bad Blood. Why wouldn't he wrestle a Bad Blood? Like, how long are we going to go without him having a match?
I don't know.
I mean, it's ridiculous. He came back. They beat him down. So now he's been gone again. If he shows up on SmackDown next week, as I think he will, well, then where do you go from there? Did he just disappear again? He has to wrestle. Like, at some point, he's got to get back in the ring here. This is ridiculous. So it fits the name of the show too. Bad Blood. You do Roman and Solo. I have no appetite to hold off on that until WrestleMania. Do you want them to wait until WrestleMania to do the first match?
Cody and Solo. Cody and Solo is no longer a pay-per-view match. Roman and Solo is not a WrestleMania match. So no to both, please.
Right. Okay. So again, that's why everything I'm saying makes sense. At least in my brain, it does. You do Cody and Solo on TV next week, and then you do Roman and Solo at Bad Blood. Because we've talked about this, how you can build to a Roman Jacob Fatu match. And to me, I know Solo's higher up in the pecking order than him, but that's the match I want to see. I'd much rather see that match on a big show like WrestleMania than Roman and Solo. Do that match at Bad Blood. You know it's probably going to only be the first one. They'll probably do more than one. But, I mean, if he doesn't wrestle on that show, what are we doing here? Like, when does he wrestle again? Are they even going to do a Bloodline match in War Games? Like, I mean, everybody is assuming that it's going to be like Bloodline against Bloodline. We're running out of time here. So if you're going to have the Usos reunite and they're going to forgive Roman and they're going to get back together, I don't know that there's enough time between now and Survivor Series to tell that story. It's September already. I don't want to just see them back together like that. You've got to take the time to tell that story about forgiveness and you know, really like reuniting them. Is there even enough time left at this point if Roman's not going to be on the show? I don't know.
I don't know, man. I hope so. If we don't get a Bloodline War Games match, man, we're looking at pure garbage collection in the War Games match. You don't want that, do you?
No, we're not. Don't say it. No, we're not. No, we're not. Come on now.
Oh, my God.
Well, you like Sonya's line? Did you like Sonya's line on Raw last night? She's like, you know, there's no man in the crowd that can take us out.
Yes, that was a new one. That was a new one.
Well, what was it? There's no woman that could take us. Period.
There's no man in the crowd there's no man in the crowd that can take us home, and there's no woman in the back that could take us at all, or some shit like that.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, that kind of came out of nowhere. It's like you know, it reminded me of, remember Sable's line? What her big catchphrase was, like in the Attitude Era?
What was it?
This is for all the men who no wait, what was it? For all the women who want to be me, and all the men who came to see me. And it got over. I don't think this is going to get over.
No, that's not going to get over. That's going to turn more people away from them, and they don't really have many people caring about what they're doing now anyway. So
no. Sonya has not had a very eventful run anyway since she came back. But
no, she hasn't been relevant since the Mandy Rose feud in the pandemic era.
Yeah, no, she hasn't. But yeah, so as far as that goes, again, I just think time is running out, and that's not a story that you rush. So as far as getting Roman in the ring, yeah, I think Bad Blood, it's about time to get him back in the ring.
Yeah, I think that fits. Roman Solo, Bad Blood, I think that works. Jacob Fatu, Roman at WrestleMania is the fantasy idea that I think we both have, and a lot of you guys have as well. It would almost be like Solo has to join Roman at that point and kind of get kicked out of his own bloodline because Fatu would be the leader, so it would be Roman the leader versus Fatu the leader, and Solo has to help kill his creation, kind of like Frankenstein almost. I don't know. I kind of like where that goes, so we'll see. We got a lot of time before that happens, but Cody Rhodes did beat Kevin Owens. He is still the WWE champion. We will see what happens on that September 13th SmackDown. Going to be a big night. I'm expecting some important stuff to happen there. We got women's tag team title match here. Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill regain the tag team championships from the Unholy Union. So we have new tag team champions. Where they go with those championships, listen, I'd be lying to you if I'm telling you I'm excited about this. I'm not. Couldn't give two shits about this. They are looking at, Jason, I guess we'll mention this now before we save it for the Raw stuff. But Bianca and Jade are looking at another match with Isla Dawn and Alba Fire as they won a number one contenders match against Damage Control last night on Monday Night Raw. I will ask you, because I mentioned this last night, them winning the titles back doesn't really do much for them or the titles because it's a dead division. But the fact that we're getting this match again, is there going to be now, with this third match happening, some miscommunication between Jade and Bianca to where we get a potential tease for a split?
I mean, we might get a tease. Doing the match makes sense because they're even. So this is the rubber match. You know, Unholy Union won the first one. Bianca and Jade won on Saturday. So I don't have an issue with them doing a third match. It could just be a straight up win. But if they start teasing it now, I don't think it'll be an overt tease because I still feel, and I know you've mentioned you think it's going to be Bianca and Rhea. I don't see that as a WrestleMania match. I think that the WrestleMania match that they won is Bianca and Jade. And I think that's the entire reason why they put the tag team titles on them in the first place. It's not about building the division because there isn't much of a division. What division is there? There is no division. This is being used as a tool to eventually, I think, help split them. And when that happens, I think that will be your WrestleMania match in Las Vegas next year. They could start teasing it now. It's still kind of early, I think, to be doing that, but maybe drop the first little hint of something. I could see that, but I don't see there being any sort of like overt miscommunication that's going to build to something in the near term, because we're close enough now to the end of the year where if you are going to do that match, you're not going to do it on any show other than WrestleMania. I don't see Bianca against Jade at the Rumble. I don't see. In fact, I could see them being in the Rumble and one eliminating the other.
I like that.
Yeah, I could see something like that happen.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're correct. It probably will be the WrestleMania match. I don't know who Rhea at that point wrestles, because I do feel like she'll go into
Dom. We know he wants it. He talked about it this week. He said he doesn't think they'll do it. I don't think they will either, but why not?
Maybe when they get to Netflix, maybe those restrictions on intergender matches will loosen a little bit. I don't know.
No, I doubt it.
I don't know who Rhea wrestles, though. Who is there? Io? Is that a big enough WrestleMania match for Rhea Ripley? I don't know. I mean, it's way too early to even think about it right now. That's why I mentioned Bianca. I don't know. I mean, here's a question. Is Rhea going to win the championship at Bad Blood from Liv Morgan?
At this moment, I would say yes.
Because a lot of people, I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know who you guys are listening to or what fucking side of Twitter you guys are on, but a lot of people are like, you know, JD, Raquel Rodriguez is going to help Liv Morgan beat Rhea Ripley. I'm like, wait.
That's what I said for SummerSlam. Remember, that was my pitch.
All right, it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense. But when are we going to get this title back on Rhea? It's like you guys are going to wait till WrestleMania to do this match. It's got to happen before then, no?
Well, I mean, if it doesn't happen at Bad Blood, it could happen at Survivor Series. It could happen at the Rumble. It could happen on Netflix. It could happen on the Netflix premiere, on January 6th. So, no, just because if Liv holds on to the title of Bad Blood, that doesn't mean that's going to be the WrestleMania. Whereas Bianca and Jade, that's been building for so long, I do think they're saving that for WrestleMania. But Rhea, if not at Bad Blood, will have that belt back before long. She may be the champion. She should be the champion going into WrestleMania. So maybe the better question is, what challenger do they come up with? Is it somebody from SmackDown who wins the Rumble and then picks Rhea and challenges Rhea for the title? And if so, who from SmackDown might that be? I don't know.
Charlotte.
No, but I don't think they're going to go back to that so quickly.
I mean, I don't want
we've already
them to.
had it. No, but we've already had it twice at WrestleMania. So, and Charlotte, I would imagine, is coming back as a babyface. So I don't see that being the match. There's Tiffany Stratton. Tiffany Stratton versus
Charlotte. I could see being the WrestleMania match for sure.
I could see that being the Mania match too. But Rhea's opponent is a little murkier. I mean, if it were me, Julia would not be in NXT, but that's a whole different story. We'd get Julia and Rhea before long.
Corey Williams in the chat says Jordynne Grace versus Rhea Ripley. Sign me up. I don't know if she's going to go to. She should go to the main roster, but I think she'll make a stop in NXT first.
Her contract is up in January, so I don't think most people expect her to re-sign with TNA. No. So, but would they see the timing? I don't know if the timing works though. Yeah. Do you think that if she becomes a free agent and they sign her, let's say late January, early February, that they would build her up for a WrestleMania title match that quickly?
No.
I mean, it would be unheard of almost. I don't see that.
And that partnership seems to be working out very well for WWE. Huh?
Well, I saw Jordynne Grace posted a video. Apparently, she's going to be defending her Knockouts title on NXT next week.
Great.
Yeah.
Who are they sending over there? That's what I want to know. Has anybody of note gone over the Impact? No.
From WWE?
Yeah.
No.
Man, oh man, you guys are getting robbed blind, man. You fucking TNA guys.
Hey, their biggest name was in the main event at No Mercy on Sunday.
I know.
And he was more over than most people on that show.
Give him time. He'll be there too.
Yeah.
Strap match, CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. This is an old school strap match where one has to touch all 4 turnbuckles in order to win. They had little lights on each turnbuckle, green for Punk and red for McIntyre, which was...
Because we're idiots and we can't keep track of it ourselves. We need a visual aid to keep us abreast of who's up.
Yes.
Red light, green light. I used to play that when I was a kid.
Yes, we need to be abreast of the situation for sure.
Always need to be abreast. The good thing to be is abreast. Speaking of which, did you see that Mariah May clip of her on the oh God, what podcast was
Barstool?
it? Barstool.
I saw a still picture of it. I didn't click it yet.
It's the funniest thing. There's a 50-second clip that's going around on Twitter, and they're all just sitting around casually. She's on the couch with one of the co-hosts, and he's got the laptop in his lap. He's got his mic, and he refuses. He cannot make eye contact with her, and they're all like ribbing him because he is turning different shades of red. He's so nervous. He's like, no, it's hot in here, and they're laughing at him. He just won't make eye contact. He's so nervous because he's sitting on the... Now, look, anybody among us, if we were sitting on the couch with Mariah May, I mean, you're going to be a little nervous there. And so she leans into the mic. She goes, why won't you look at me? And he turns and he's like, this guy's fighting for his life. It's the funniest thing.
So you're saying he folded right there in front of her?
Oh my God, he folded like a cheap suit, as anybody listening to this would. I mean, come on.
Listen, man, you put yourself in his shoes, and Mina was sitting next to you. What would you do? You'd fold too, no?
I'd have a very nice conversation with her. I'd like to think.
I'm sure you would.
I bet we have a lot in common.
Yeah, you guys would fold too. Don't give me that shit. Punk. He did not fold against Drew McIntyre. This was a great match. I thought Punk looked really good in this match. I thought this was leagues better than what they did at SummerSlam, where a lot of the focus was on Punk coming back and keeping an eye on him if he's going to fucking blow another tendon or rip an arm out of a socket. Everybody was just keeping a very, very big microscope on CM Punk at SummerSlam. And then you got Seth Rollins, the factor of him being the special guest referee. There was a lot going on in that match. This was specifically aimed to both of them and the emotional story here with the bracelet and them being bound by the wrists here for this strap match. I thought this was great, Jason. I loved the emotion in this. I loved the fact that Punk put McIntyre down with 4 GTSs, took possession of the bracelet before what we all saw last night on Monday Night Raw happened with the bracelet. I thought this was a great match. I thought Punk looked good. I think he shut up a lot of people as far as... a lot of people thinking he can't go. I think this is a different Punk than what we're going to get, fucking 10, 15 years ago. This is a more story-driven Punk. This is a more driven by emotion Punk. He's going to tell a different story in the ring. I actually prefer this Punk because I think story is king. But I love what they did here. I thought this was a great match. Punk looked great. What'd you think of this?
Now, when you say you prefer this Punk, are you talking about this Punk over the Punk from 10 or 12 years ago?
Let me rephrase that. Not as far as an in-ring aspect. I think this Punk is a little bit more story-driven on what he does, as far as what he takes in the ring and then applies it to the story. I like the slow kind of. I don't want to say methodical, but like he wrestles like someone who he takes a lot of influence from Bret Hart. Bret Hart was a lot of emotion in the ring, a lot of story, working a physical body part, telling that story in the ring. I like where Punk's mindset is at right now. I think he's very story-driven, and I really appreciate that. Whereas I think Punk was just trying to go out there and have the best match with, no real care 10, 15 years ago. I think that mindset is a little bit different now.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just a different company now. I mean, if the creative was better back then, he would have had a better story back then, too. So, I mean, if we're going to start comparing Punk then to Punk now, I would definitely take the Punk from back then. But I thought that this was better than their SummerSlam match. I enjoyed this more than the SummerSlam match. The issue I had with the SummerSlam match, which I liked, it lacked that sense of intensity.
Yeah.
These two guys have been going at each other tooth and nail now for the whole year. And then we finally get to the match and just there was something missing there. It was better here. I still feel like there's something missing when the bell rings, but it was definitely better here than I thought it was at SummerSlam. And again, Punk made it through okay. I on my review, I put up a visual aid, a counter. We are now up to 2 CM Punk matches that he made it through without injury, which is great. Hopefully that can continue. And same situation as SummerSlam where McIntyre won, and then the next night he's like, I'm done. I'm moving on. Punk said same thing on Raw, right? He came out, I'm done. I'm moving on. But you knew that
was basically his undoing there.
It was his undoing, but you knew it wasn't over. So now they're all knotted up, and now we all know where this is headed. You know, this is headed to Hell in a Cell. And honestly, we don't know yet the official full card for Bad Blood, but the way things are shaping up, I feel the same way about this match that I do for the Swerve Strickland Hangman Page match on Saturday at All Out, where I feel like that match should headline the pay-per-view. And I feel the same way about Punk and McIntyre. They're going to do Hell in a Cell, and if that's the only cell match we get on that show, and the story being as rich and deep as it has been with these two, I feel like they should close the show.
I agree. I think they should absolutely close the show. Depending on if Cody, it really depends on who Cody wrestling at Bad Blood. If it's for the WWE Championship against Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, I don't know what's going to happen there, but it depends on who Cody's going to wrestle. If it's Randy Orton, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, no, if there was going to be a title change, then okay, you close with that. But if not, then I would close with this match.
But as far as where these two are going now, the rumor is obviously Hell in a Cell. We all saw what happened on Monday Night Raw with Punk being beaten up. He got Claymored out of his Nikes last night, which was a great visual. McIntyre showed up, and he beat the shit out of Punk, bloodied him, took the bracelet back. He was yelling at the officials, all I want is the bracelet. I'm going to take the bracelet. He took the bracelet, and he ripped the bracelet, and all the beads scattered all over the ring. He has a handful of them. And
I prayed for this, and it happened.
I know.
Because this bracelet stuff, I didn't have an issue with it at SummerSlam. But when I saw that they were still talking about the fucking bracelet last night, I said, no. I said, now it's jumped the shark. I don't want another 30 days of a bracelet to build to a Hell in a Cell match. And then McIntyre destroyed it. And I don't think it was the actual bracelet, by the way. Somebody pointed out like the threading was different. So I don't think they destroyed the actual one. But thank God, because I was worried that they were going to continue to drive this bracelet stuff for the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and it would have been overkill. But what they did last night was great. It was actually very similar to the angle they did on SmackDown in July or late June.
It was in Chicago.
So he destroyed Punk, and he left him bloody, and it was a very similar angle last night. He was unhinged, and he left him laying, I assume, because Punk now will take a few weeks off. And it should be Punk, when we see him back, issuing the challenge, I would imagine, to the Cell match.
Yeah, what he does upon return, nobody knows, but it's got to be just as physical and intense as this was last night on Monday night. So now I want to paint you guys a picture. Punk lost to McIntyre at SummerSlam. Punk beat McIntyre in Berlin, but McIntyre owns a pinfall over CM Punk. Punk did not pin Drew McIntyre Bash in Berlin because it was a strap match, and he won via the rules of the strap match. So now we're going into this quote-unquote rubber match, and Punk will probably win there, and it will lead to him getting a championship match against Gunther at Survivor Series, which we will discuss in a little bit as well. But I want to paint you guys this picture as well. Punk ruined McIntyre's World Championship hopes 3 different times. Now, this is the 3rd time that McIntyre is sending Punk to the hospital. First, he tore his, what did he tear? His triceps? Tore his triceps, hospital number 1. And then he sends him to the hospital in Chicago on that SmackDown episode. And now, again, last night. So it's 3-3. We're tied 3-3 if we're looking at the scoreboard. Now, I did mention this last night, Jason, and this is the part I want to get your opinion on because I'm very curious to see where your mind is at in regards to this. If we do get a Hell in a Cell, which I think we all are probably leading to this being inside Hell in a Cell. If it's as intense as we hope it is, and we get out of Hell in a Cell, Punk wins, he gets his match with Gunther, we show up on the Monday Night Raw following Bad Blood. In my honest opinion, I don't know how both of these men exist on Monday Night Raw after Hell in a Cell, because even if McIntyre loses, is he just going to go his separate way away from Punk and go on to do something else? Or, you know, in his mindset, he's the fucking Scottish psychopath. He's just going to haunt this guy until he's no longer alive and breathing. So in my honest opinion, it doesn't make sense for them to be on the same brand anymore following Hell in a Cell. In my honest opinion, I think we need to make this match not only a Hell in a Cell, but a loser leaves brand match. I think McIntyre loses and he gets shipped over to SmackDown. And then that's where you got another top-level heel for Cody Rhodes to eventually work with in 2025, on top of Kevin Owens potentially turning heel and Randy Orton turning heel. I think this needs to be one and over with. This is it. McIntyre loses, he's off the SmackDown, and Adam Pearce doesn't have to deal with this headache anymore, because I don't know how he runs Monday Night Raw with them on the same show. So I don't know if you brought up that possibility on your end on Monday. What do you think about that playing out?
It's not a bad idea. Does Adam Pearce greenlight that with the idea that he's losing one of his top names without getting anything in return?
I did also discuss that. I said if McIntyre does lose this match and Adam Pearce has to part with somebody that big of a star on his brand, he's got to get something back in return. That's where I say, you know what? AJ Styles ain't doing much of anything. Let's get AJ over to Monday Night Raw and ship Drew McIntyre over to SmackDown.
Yeah, because I just feel like it would be a little lopsided if he was like, okay, and then he lost one of his top names and didn't get anything in return for it. So that would be fine. It does I feel like it would throw a little bit of a monkey wrench into things as far as the Randy Orton stuff, because you would think they would want to build McIntyre up pretty quickly as, you know, a challenger for Cody. But if Orton wins the title, how does that affect things? Or do they just kind of slot McIntyre in maybe at the level of an LA Knight going after the US title? So that would be the only thing that really has to be worked through. I don't know that you can get away with doing an Orton heel turn and talk about him maybe beating Cody, and then what does McIntyre do if he's on SmackDown? Because he would want to go after the WWE title, obviously.
Well, he'd have to work his way back up there, yeah. But, you know, this probably won't happen. I was thinking maybe Randy, KO, and Drew McIntyre in some sort of fucking just elite faction on SmackDown. I was just really just kind of thinking out loud last night. Probably won't go that far, but I mean, I just don't see how they coexist on Monday night following Hell in a Cell, and them just go their separate ways without wanting to just rip each other's heads off even after that. It's like, what do they do? There's got to be some sort of stipulation involved to where they can't touch each other anymore.
Well, not only that, but if he stayed on Raw, what would McIntyre do?
Nothing.
I mean, who was there for him? Like, what would the next big program for him be? I don't even, off the top of my head, I don't know who that would even be with. So shipping him off might be the only thing to do with him, because if he stays on Raw, I'm not sure where he goes from there. Especially if Punk is going to potentially go on to challenge Gunther.
Yep.
Then what do you do with McIntyre? Because, yeah, the problem with that is on Raw right now, you've got two heel champions. You know, Gunther is a heel and Braun Breaker is a heel. And I don't see him losing the title yet. So that puts McIntyre as a heel in a tough spot. And he's already worked with Rollins, right? When Rollins comes back, we don't need to go back to that again. So I'm not even sure what you do with him if he stays on Raw. That might be the best thing for him.
We'll see how it plays out. I just feel like they need to separate big time following Hell in a Cell. But CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, the strap match was great. I'm excited for what they did on Monday night. And the Hell in a Cell match is looming. So we'll see if it actually is Hell in a Cell. It's nothing's official yet. But the bracelet is now finished. And it is certainly bad blood for both Punk and McIntyre. So hopefully that gets announced in the next couple of weeks. Mixed tag team match here at Berlin. We got Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley beating Dominic and Liv Morgan. I thought this was a very good match. I thought this was super fun on top of it being very good. And I love the outcome. A lot of people were like, well, why did Rhea Ripley pin Liv Morgan? And I don't think people were really thinking then on Saturday afternoon. They were thinking with their emotions, because Liv is the champion. She shouldn't be pinned, but she absolutely should be pinned, because if Rhea wants a championship match, she'd have that in her back pocket because she pinned the champion. If she didn't win, then she really doesn't have anything to go off of. So that's exactly what you got on Monday night. The first thing that you heard is she wants Liv Morgan, she wants her championship back, and she wants her match one-on-one. And I love the way this all played out. I thought this was Liv Morgan's best in-ring match probably ever. And the work that she's doing, I thought Saturday night, Jason, or Saturday afternoon rather, was probably the best we've seen Liv Morgan in 2024. I think she's killing it with this role. And this whole Rhea Ripley feud, one of the greatest happenstances of the last decade for WWE, because I don't know if they were planning on it going in this direction, but the injury to Rhea Ripley, no matter how devastating it was to have her away from the show and off the program on Monday night, man, oh man, her getting injured might have been the best thing for this entire fucking storyline, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a classic case of taking a negative and turning it into a positive.
Yeah.
And even if the eventual plan was to have Dom, you know, and Rhea split, I doubt very seriously it was supposed to go down the way that it ended up going down, step by step. So I think Liv has been killing it as far as the character-wise. In the ring, I think she's fine. I mean, it's not like I've seen some drastic improvement or anything like that from how she was before. She's fine. But character-wise is where she's really been killing it. And so the word I would use to kind of sum up what we saw was fun. It was a fun match. I love the double Razor's Edge spot. Every segment they've done, even in the build up to this show, was hot. And, when you had Rhea out there with Priest and they're kicking ass and they're trying to get to Balor and he just gets away and Liv gets away, it's been hot because the fans are into it. And so one thing that they were able to achieve coming out of that World Heavyweight title run is Damian Priest does feel like a bigger star than he was at the beginning of all that. And that should always be the goal. You're trying to elevate somebody. It's one thing to put a belt on them and then they lose it and they're still in the same spot. It's just sort of a flat line or like a lateral move. But in this case, he does feel like a bigger deal. He does feel more over. And that also, I would expect to be a Bad Blood match. When he finally gets Balor in the ring one-on-one, I think Bad Blood would be the right place for it. And you do Rhea and Liv for the championship.
Do you see Rhea and Liv potentially also being inside Hell in a Cell, or do we just get one Hell in a Cell with Punk and McIntyre?
If it were me, and again, maybe it's just the traditionalist in me, you've got one real blood feud here. That's the one match that should be inside the cell. But I understand if they want to have one men's and one women's, and it actually works in this case because this also is a big grudge feud that's been going on for a while. There's a lot of story there. So my guess is we'll probably get one men's cell and one women's cell, and Rhea and Liv would end up in the cell as well. And that's okay. And I think also the other thing they're doing is they're saving that Riptide because they teased it again on Saturday and we didn't get it. But she's going to Riptide Dom. And when she does, it'll get a big reaction.
Yeah, I did put that here in my notes. There was no Riptide on Dominic on Saturday afternoon. They are saving it for when, we don't know. I'm sure it will be the championship win for Rhea Ripley when she gets that championship back. But I agree with you as well. I'm also a very old school mind. I remember, what Hell in a Cell was it where Vince did 3 Hell in a Cells on one show? What was it, 2016?
2009.
2009.
I think it was 2009 because it opened. I think the show opened with Undertaker and Punk. Wasn't that the show where they did 3 of them? I think I
could have swore there was one after that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
There may have been one after. That's the first one I can remember. I want to say there were 3 on that show. I think it was Undertaker and Punk open for the World Heavyweight title.
Wasn't there Roman and Rusev in one of them?
In a cell?
Yes.
Roman and Strowman were in a cell. I don't remember Roman and Rusev being in one. Roman and Bray?
Might have been Bray.
Yeah, I don't think Roman and Rusev were in a cell. Why would they have been in a cell?
I don't know. Why Vince McMahon does anything? I don't fucking know.
What the hell? Roman and Rusev.
Oh, what was the third one? On that I got to look it up now. This is
in 2009, I want to say it was DX maybe against Legacy.
2009, it was actually Hell in a Cell, the pay-per-view?
I believe so.
I got to see this.
I believe so. Yeah, look it up and see.
Somebody in 2016 in Boston says Chris in the chat. Let's see. I don't know. I knew 2016 was sticking out to me for some reason. But
I know they did that one horrible Hell in a Cell. I think it was Roman and Strowman that ended in a fucking no contest or something.
All right, we got Undertaker. You're correct. Undertaker, CM Punk, Hell in a Cell match for the World Heavyweight Championship. Randy Orton versus John Cena inside Hell in a Cell. And then D-Generation X versus Legacy inside Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
Okay, now let me look up the 2016 because that one's sticking out for some reason. And people in the chat are like, 2016. That one was Roman Reigns versus Rusev. See? Hell in a Cell.
I have no memory of this. I have no memory of this whatsoever.
Kevin Owens.
It's funny, though. But it's funny, though. I told you 2009, I remember. That I don't remember, and that was a lot more
I don't know
than that.
why I remember that. Like, I'm terrible with that type of shit. You're the fucking people go-to for that shit. I don't know why that stuck out to me, but I knew there was a show with him on it, with Roman. So that was a Hell in a Cell match. Kevin Owens versus Chris Jericho. Actually, no, Kevin Owens with Chris Jericho against Seth Rollins was a Hell in a Cell match. And then Charlotte versus Sasha Banks was a Hell in a Cell match. First ever women's Hell in a Cell match. That was
that. I remember.
Yeah,
that I remember.
Man, that's fucking overkill, bro. 3 Hell in a Cell matches on a single show?
That's ridiculous. No, that's right. And you'll never see it now because Triple H only has 5 matches on these cards. What are you going to do? You're going to have 3 cell matches on a 5-match card? Are you kidding me?
One in the beginning, one in the middle, and one in the end. That would be fucking ridiculous.
That. Get out of here with that shit.
Yeah, so that's that was a no for that one.
Yeah.
I don't mind Rhea and Liv being inside Hell if they want to do it. I don't think it needs it, but if you're gonna give it to me and serve it up, I'm not gonna complain because it does fit the bill.
Yeah, I mean, again, you don't need it, especially with Dom out there. If the whole plan is to build to that spot with Dom, I'm not sure it has to be in the cell. But if it is, like I said, it's the closest thing to a women's story right now on either show that has that, that story and that history to it. So, I think that's fine.
They got a lot to work up against, man, because the Bray and Seth Rollins Hell in a Cell match, the greatest Hell in a Cell match of all time.
Yeah, we don't need to.
That one left such a terrible taste in everybody's mouth, man. I don't know how they are going to be able to wash that shit out of people's mouths. They got to do something with this Hell in a Cell. Hopefully we get no red cage. Hopefully we get the old school cage back.
No, but you're forgetting though, because there was a great Hell in a Cell match on Crown Jewel in 2021.
Yeah, Rollins and Edge. Yeah,
that was an excellent match.
Yes,
and that was the 50th one. That was the 50th ever Hell in a Cell match, and they had that great trilogy anyway because they had a great SummerSlam match. They had that SmackDown match in Madison Square Garden, and then that one. And I'm trying to think.
Edge and Balor was good too. I mean, it stopped a little bit because of the Staples spot, but
yeah, I didn't like that as much. That wasn't as good. Well, was that the last one? What was the last Hell in a Cell match? That was
the last one. We haven't seen one since. Yeah. Which is good.
Which is fine. Yeah, which is fine.
So hopefully we get some confirmation on that because I think a lot of people are excited. I mean, the show sold out, so I think people kind of are anticipating it. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, and remember, the only reason that we're even assuming we get one, the only reason we're even getting it is because they're commemorating the 25-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Of the first Bad Blood and the first Hell in a Cell match, which I think is still the best Hell in a Cell match, between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. I say that, people still come at me, Undertaker and Mankind. I don't even grade that the same way I grade other matches. It's just like, how do you grade a match like that the same way? You know what I mean? Like, it's definitely the most memorable of all the Hell in a Cell matches, but if you ask me the best one, I still go back to the first one.
Yeah, that's a tough discussion, man, because if you're going to put a gun to my head and give you an answer on which one was the better match, I mean, you can't go wrong with either one of them, but honestly, The Undertaker's greatest rival, in my opinion, ever is Mick Foley. So it's like, But
that doesn't make it the best Hell in a Cell.
No. But I mean, the whole story there with Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker coming out of SummerSlam was just fucking unbelievable. It was basically the start of the Attitude Era. If you want to go back.
And building to the debut of Kane, which is the greatest debut of all time.
Yeah. So take your pick. You can't go wrong there. But yes, Hell in a Cell should be a very special night. Big show coming up, and Gunther will definitely be a part of that. He defended the World's Heavyweight Championship against Randy Orton at Bash in Berlin, in front of his home friends and family. It was a great spectacle. They were both legitimately, in this case, Gunther's the heel. He wrestled, obviously, coming into the home country, home soil here as a babyface. Randy Orton was still very much over. It was just a great pro wrestling match, very old school. The one reservation I had about it, Jason, not that I gave it a massive deduction of points just based off this, but I did feel that it went a little bit too long. I think it went longer than it really needed to. They went about 26 minutes, but that spot at the end where they...
No. They went, I counted 35 minutes. I mean,
35
minutes?
Went,
yeah, they went, it was closer to that. They went a while. And I agree. They went longer than they needed to. I think if you would have shaved off a good 8 to 10 minutes,
you may be right. I think I had a typo here. It did feel like 35 minutes, but that spot with the tables and the stairs, I mean, that was a good 8 minutes there, just setting the whole fucking thing up. It was like they needed a breather in that match to get to the final finale there.
Yeah, but that's what stood out to me the most about the match. I thought it was an excellent match. It was the selling.
Yeah.
Gunther selling with the wrist, Orton selling with the lower back was just masterful. And they told a story just based on that alone, just based on selling those injuries. It just felt like they were in a war. So they didn't have to do anything terribly fancy. It was just like, man, these two guys are in a fucking battle with each other. And I love how he put him out with the sleeper in the end. Because they've really done a good job, I think, of, and they did this with the half crab for a while there. He was beating people, and he tapped out Sheamus with a half crab on Raw once. So he's got a few different moves that he can use, whether it's the power bomb, the half crab, the sleeper hold. You've got some variety there with Gunther, so I like that. And then the post match was very unique because even though he was Gunther was a babyface over there in that country, he's a heel. But Orton went up to him when the match was over. Gunther put his hand out. And Orton shook his hand.
Yeah.
And it was a show of sportsmanship. And that's the thing about Gunther that I love. It is so counter to the way that heels have typically been portrayed in this company, mainly under Vince, for decades, which is the chicken shit heel, always have to cheat, always need help. Gunther never has to take a shortcut. He doesn't have to have people constantly running in on his matches. He wins straight up. And he's the heel. He's still a heel. But that's okay. Before The Rock came along and started calling himself the final boss, I was calling him the final boss because that's what that's how he was booked. He was booked like the final boss.
He is the final boss. And yes, Vince's heel or presentation of a heel was just ridiculous. Cheat to win every fucking night.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time Gunther cheated to win. You don't even actively seek to cheat. At the last interference we saw at SummerSlam, Balor came out there and helped Gunther win the championship. But, he didn't ask for that. It was just whatever was going on with the Judgment Day. But, yes. I don't think Gunther's going to be cheating at all in this title reign. At all. That's great.
Well, look, he may get to a point where he finally meets his match or someone is so frustrated that he resorts to,
Cena.
Well, maybe Cena, but, I guess so. But, looking at Cena's last few matches, does Gunther really need to cheat against him?
No.
Cena's had a bad run these last few matches, but yeah, but that's one of the things I love about his presentation on these shows. So I enjoyed the main event. I don't know that I enjoyed it more than Randy Orton did because he had a big smile on his face the entire time. He was so happy. They did a wave and he just stopped and he looked out. He's like, he hasn't seen a wave since we did the wave the night after WrestleMania when he wrestled Sheamus, although that was for a very different reason because we were fucking bored that night trying to amuse ourselves. In this case, it was just people, who were really into the match, having a good time. And Orton, that he said he brought his wife with him, on the trip because he knew that the atmosphere in the building was going to be just electric, and he wanted her to experience it and be a part of it. And it was, and that's part of why the match I think was so long. Also, is just these moments where he would stop just to acknowledge all the chants and the singing, and it was great though. It makes for a fun atmosphere.
Yeah, I love this version of Randy Orton. He's just seemingly having a good time out there. He's still a top tier pro wrestler. This was a classic old school main event that you'd see in the early 90s, or late 80s, early 90s. This was just a great pro wrestling match. They worked the arm. He took the chop away from him. I think Orton maybe took 2 chops in this entire match. I think he took more in Saudi at the King of the Ring.
Yeah, but he took one to the back of the neck.
Yeah, he did.
He was bracing himself. He stood there like he was bracing for it, and then you saw that chop and the sweat flies.
Shit, I'm gonna need surgery again, man.
Oh my God, jeez.
You could pay me all the money in the world. I would not take a Gunther chop. No, that and a tsunami splash from Bronson Reed. But great match. I loved what they did, and it was just a great cap for the end of the night for Bash in Berlin. Now the question is, we talked about Orton and where we feel like he should go. We will find out in a couple of weeks what his role will be on SmackDown. But Gunther, as of last night, we know Punk has aspirations. He called out Gunther. They planted that seed. They want you to know that match is coming. The reason why Punk mentioned Gunther in the World Championship is because that's his mission statement. He wants the World Championship. He wants to main event WrestleMania. That's the reason why he's back. He's calling out Gunther. And that will probably be your Survivor Series match at the end of November, which I am okay with. I don't know how we get out of Survivor Series and what the outcome will be there. I don't really see Gunther losing the championship unless Rollins has something to say now against Punk getting a championship match with him being out with injury. Well, I guess we'll discuss that at a later date. But Punk wants the title. Survivor Series is the rumored destination for that match. But before that, Jason, we got Gunther and Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn called a shot last night on Monday Night Raw, which I initially had a problem with because I remember, and I know you do as well, a couple of weeks ago, Jey Uso told Sami Zayn to go get his Intercontinental Championship match against Braun Breaker, 2 out of 3 falls. When he does that, they'll go after the Tag Team Championships and beat Finn Balor and JD McNuggets. That didn't happen. So we're not getting that right now. It seems like there was a change somewhere in the creative process. Now we're getting Sami going after the World Championship, which was the original title he wanted to go for at WrestleMania, before WrestleMania, and then they shifted him to the IC title. And Jey Uso is looking at the Intercontinental title himself now on Braun Breaker as he's in the finals of this IC title tournament. I don't know where we're going with this, but I said last night, Gunther obviously is not losing to Zayn. Jey Uso will probably win that Fatal 4-Way, get Braun Breaker, and inevitably lose. So they're both going to come out as losers. I do think they will come out as losers and then reconvene together and then go after the Tag Team Championships, beat Judgment Day, and get that championship victory that they were looking for individually together and become the new Tag Team Champions. That will lead into War Games. They will rejoin Roman and Jimmy as Tag Team Champions. It's a little odd that the Usos aren't Tag Team Champions and Zayn and Jey may be the Tag Team Champions instead. But we get the OG Bloodline against the new Bloodline. And I even said this, if that happens and they end up back on SmackDown, because I know you feel the same way as well, let's get a fucking match between Jey and Sami and the Tongans and reunite those Tag Team Championships again and just fucking merge these divisions once and for all, because it was a fucking mistake that they even split the titles at WrestleMania to begin with. So that's where I think they're going, and the reason why they did it is because they want them to come together at the end to win championship gold together.
Yeah, and you had Kofi on TV last night pointing out that McDonough and Balor haven't defended those titles in 2 months.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, again,
looking at a Young Buck situation here in WWE.
Well, they got 2 more months to catch up to the Young Bucks. I asked the question again, why did they split the titles again?
I don't know.
Beats the hell out of me. So, yeah, I would love to see a unification just to get them back together. I look at this timeline, though, and I'm just starting to wonder, are we getting that at War Games? I feel like we're starting to run out of time here. You know, Jimmy's not even back yet. And Jey is doing his own thing. You need time to tell that story if there's going to be a reunion. You can't just snap your fingers and in 2 weeks, you know, all is forgiven and Jey is back with Jimmy and they're back with Roman. It's like you're leaving out weeks and weeks of story here. So if something's going to happen, it's going to happen real quick. It was odd. There definitely was a change in creative for whatever the reason was. Maybe they just felt like, oh shit, we need somebody to put in there with Gunther. So they chose Sami. But there was definitely a change along the way because they went from, okay, you and I are going to win the tag team titles, to all of a sudden Jay's thrown his name in the hat for the Intercontinental title. Sami disappears after he lost the championship. Now he's back and he's going after the World Heavyweight title. As far as the match, the only thing it's going to be a great match, but the only thing I don't like about this is this should have been a WrestleMania match.
Yeah.
Sami beat Gunther at WrestleMania this year. And to come back at WrestleMania next year and tell that story of 1 year later, I beat you once, I can do it again, and I'm going to win the World Heavyweight Championship, even if he doesn't. But that, to me, on that show, like getting that stage would have been so perfect. Not to say they can't do it, but if they're going to do it now, it makes it less likely. We're going to get a great match out of it, but I think in their mind, they're trying to build up Gunther as strong as possible. And what better way to do that than by having him go in there and beat the one guy who has beaten him and blemished his record on the main roster. And so that's why they're doing it. I don't know that anybody Sami's not going to win. So, you know, Gunther will retain. I could see it being a one and done. I don't know that they're going to draw this out. I would rather it be one and done so that maybe they can revisit it, you know? I threw out the possibility on the stream the other night of Sami winning the Royal Rumble. Some people laughed at me, but I mean, I could see it. I could see him being the underdog winner in the Royal Rumble. Why would they laugh at you?
That was my very early prediction way back earlier in the year. I think that's a great idea. I mean, I don't know if it's as good of an idea now, but it was a great idea then at least.
Yeah, no, I mean, and some people just don't like Sami or see him in that spot. I mean, that's probably why, but you could still get there. And there's still a story to be told because they started it earlier in the year where I've never won the World Heavyweight Championship, you know, like on the main roster. It's the one thing I haven't been able to do. And there's a story there to be told. But as far as doing this match now, that's why they're doing it. You know, he gets to go in there now, avenge that loss from WrestleMania, and then move on, whether it's Punk or whoever else it may end up being. So I like the match. I just wish the timing was a little bit different.
So Gunther will have slayed Randy Orton, Sami Zayn, and then rumored to be CM Punk at Survivor Series. That's quite the early run for him, which a lot of people are going to be like, well, he doesn't need to hold the championship for 600 days. He's not going to hold the championship for 600 days. We don't need it. My prediction is we at least get him till SummerSlam because I want to see Cena versus Gunther. I think that is the classic old school villain versus babyface match that Cena deserves for a final send-off if he's chasing number 17. SummerSlam.
SummerSlam, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I mentioned. I mean, if they were going to do a big stadium show for SummerSlam, Cena and Gunther would be a great.
No, I'm going based off your idea because I think you said it best. Like you don't want to rush 17 with Cena at WrestleMania because he hasn't won a match in what? How many years?
He hasn't won a singles match in about 6 years.
Yeah, I think that's the story you tell at WrestleMania. He beats Randy Orton there. That's my prediction.
Yeah. The last singles win that he had was against Triple H, and that was at Super Showdown in Saudi in 2018. We're heading into 2025. So, when he comes back, the first story you've got to tell and finish is that he needs to win. He needs to get back to his winning ways. He's fallen on tough times here. Once he could get that taken care of, then you could start talking about number 17. And so you got a whole year with him. So it's not just WrestleMania and he's done. You've got him from January to December. That's why the Randy Orton question is, do you do Cena and Orton at WrestleMania or do you save it for his very last match in December is John Cena and Randy Orton, and you build a special out of it, whether it's a TV special, a Netflix special, PLE. I would make a big deal about that. Cena's his last hurrah, and why not Randy Orton as his final opponent? But some people think it would be a bigger deal if it was a WrestleMania.
Someone in the chat said, didn't Cena beat Solo? No, Solo, remember you guys...
destroyed him.
He
Solo
had
destroyed him.
four fucking finishers to him.
Is it 4? I thought it was like 6.
Yeah, whatever. It was a lot. So, yeah, that was in Saudi that happened. And that was the last time we saw him,
Yeah, Cena lost to Austin Theory in a terrible match. Yeah. And then he lost to Solo Sikoa.
Yeah.
So he's a loser. He's a loser. He can't come back and go after number 17 if he can't win a fucking match.
So the way we are looking at Bad Blood is this. If all goes according to what we talked about here, which we have two good minds here, Gunther versus Sami Zayn for the World Championship. I would like to see that at Bad Blood. I don't want to see that on a season premiere or a random Raw. I think that's a pay-per-view worthy match. Sami beat him out at WrestleMania. He should be at Bad Blood trying to take that World Championship. So that's the World Championship match. Depending on what Cody does, it could be either KO or Randy, Solo. We don't really know yet. It's all up in the air until we get to that first show on USA Network. So he will be there. We just don't know against who. Braun Breaker will defend the IC title against Jey Uso. I think that's pretty much where they're going. I don't
see that being a PLE match.
No? I don't know, man. I would like to see that at PLE.
I would too. But when was the last? Well, we had it at SummerSlam. We had the first match with Sami and Braun. I guess they did that at Money in the Bank. But let's map the rest of the card out, because if he's going to stick to 5, is there a spot for it on the show, or would Triple H?
Well, then you got Punk, McIntyre, Hell in a Cell, Liv and Rhea for the World Championship there, and then maybe Finn and Priest. But I said last night, I don't see them doing Finn and Priest yet. I think they wait on that for some reason.
How long do you wait?
I don't know. I mean, it makes
McDonough
sense.
and Carlito.
I know. It makes sense. But knowing him, he's going to fucking drag this thing out until WrestleMania.
Well, if you're going to do that, yeah, in an ideal situation, you would drag it out until WrestleMania. But boy, that's going to be awfully tough to keep people interested in this if you're not going to do the first match with Priest and Balor until mid-April. I don't see that. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, that's a little ridiculous. But even in this mock card that we got coming here for you guys discussing this card, still no tag team title match at the pay-per-view. No, but there's no idea about where they're going with those tag team titles. No U.S. title match at the pay-per-view. I'd love to see a conclusion between Carmelo and Andrade, and then someone there wrestle LA Knight. I mean, the United States Championship, they want to put it on one of the hottest guys in the entire industry, and then you don't want to feature him on a PLE. It's kind of a little ridiculous, if you ask me. I don't know. That's 6 matches there. Are they going to stick to 6? Are they going to do 5? I think you could do a little bit more for a 25th anniversary Hell in a Cell Bad Blood returning. Let's do 6 matches, 7 matches. Let's make this a big deal.
You're not going to get 7 matches. You might get 6. You'll probably get 5. You're not getting 7.
I don't know, man.
Not
Let's
happening.
see. Monday Night Raw. Let's bleed into Monday Night Raw. Everything that we talked about kind of happened on Monday Night Raw. We bled some Raw discussion into the Bash in Berlin discussion, but there are other things that happened on Monday Night Raw last night. And right at the top, we got Chad Gable and the American Made faction. They are calling out the Wyatt Six for a mixed tag team match next week. Not just any mixed tag team match. It's an 8-man mixed tag team match. 8-person mixed tag team match. Nikki Cross will be in the ring officially wrestling under the Wyatt persona.
Well, hold on a second. An 8-person mixed tag team street fight.
Street fight, yes.
And my question to you is this. In a street fight, how are you going to ensure that you stick to the mixed tag rules if it's a street fight where there are no rules?
That is a very good question. That means to me, the only thing logically that jumps off my head right now is that Nikki Cross and Ivy Nile will be somewhere in the bowels of the building somewhere while the men are destroying the ringside area. Got to be somewhere. Okay. Somewhere like that. I don't know. It's going to be interesting, though. But the question is, Jason, has this feud gone on too long? Is this just bad news for American Made and Chad Gable? I said last night, I'd love to see them get a win. I just don't see the Wyatts losing in this situation. But how do you see this playing out? Because a lot of people are like, Chad Gable keeps losing. Chad Gable's buried. And I try and make excuse after excuse that he's not buried. He's in 2 or 3 segments a night. He's feuding with one of the top acts in the company, which is a great deal because they could have chose anybody there to feud with the new Wyatts coming off of Bray's 1-year anniversary of his passing. What do you do here? Does Gable get the win, or does he just walk into next week as a loser again?
I think American Made gets the win. I think American Made has to get the win because this is not the end. We're going to get another Uncle Howdy Chad Gable match. I could see a stipulation match. Who was it? Somebody was joking, maybe doing like a casket match or something, and I threw it out there because I'm a mark for the stipulation. I wouldn't even mind having like a buried alive match or something.
Yeah.
But some kind of stipulation match to blow it off. I think it'll end up being blown off in a singles match with Gable and Howdy. So I think you at least give American Made a win here. It's a street fight. There are no rules. There's any number of things you could do. I mean, they could somehow devise a trap where they like trap all the other members in the locker room and they lock the door and now Howdy is by him. Like, you can come up with something like that in a match like this. There are no rules. And I think that's going to be advantage American Made, just to then get us to one final blow off, and then we can move on from this. So I don't feel like it's gone on too long. I think in that case, that's a case of people just being a little too impatient because, it's taken this long just to get the other members of the Wyatts in the ring. We've still only seen them in one actual match. So this is now going to be their second time collectively. And Nikki Cross, it's her first match since November. So I think, they've paced it okay. But after this, I think you do the blow off and then you move on. And what the Wyatt family moves on to from here, I don't know. I mean, they could go after the Judgment Day. That's a possibility maybe. But I do think that American Made needs a win. And this is the time and the place for them to get that win.
Yeah, I listen. I love Chad Gable. I've been trying to convince people it's not the right time. It's not the right place. He's doing great work no matter who he's in the ring with. He's helping Bo Dallas and the rest of these guys get over. It will be his time at some point. Right now, he's doing his job and he's doing it very well. Whatever they ask him to do, he does great work. So I'm not really concerned about that. They didn't put these guys and Ivy Nile together for them to be losers. Creeds are going to be future tag team champions. This is going to be a big stable in 25.
I got to give a shout out to Maxine Dupree.
Yes.
Because I thought last night, it was very brief, but I thought that what she was able to do and what she showed us in the ring last night, that was as good as I've ever seen her. And so she's making the most of what very limited time that she's being given in the ring on TV. And it's not like they're doing even that many house shows anymore. So you can't say, well, she'll just work the house shows and get better. They're doing fewer and fewer of those. But what we saw of her, I was impressed. And you could tell even in the span of just these last few months, again, she's not Judy Grable or Mildred Burke or Trish Stratus or anybody like that. But she's definitely made improvements. And she looked good and the crowd was into it last night.
She looks more natural in the ring than Jade Cargill, in my opinion.
She looks more comfortable. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, again, the product of just giving her actual time to improve, because she got thrown into the deep end of the pool.
Yeah.
She had no business being called up to the main roster when she was.
Zero.
The plan was to put her in the ring. It's one thing if she was going to be a manager, but to put her in the ring, I mean, that's the whole purpose of having that performance center and that developmental program. It's tailor-made for people like her, and they do good work down there. You know, you see the women's division in NXT. She would have benefited from that. So that's not her fault, but I think they did her a disservice when people started shitting on her because she wasn't that good. And she's not great. But I at least want to acknowledge the fact that she's better and she's improving, and she looked good last night.
Yeah, to see where she was on NXT, I think she was like a valet for Von Wagner on NXT 2.0. To see where she is now, to see what they started doing with her when they first put her in the ring, it's almost like she didn't belong there. The ring attire is the first thing that I noticed. It looked like she didn't belong in a ring just based on what she was wearing, never mind what she was doing in the ring. She looks like a complete wrestler now with the ring attire last night. I thought she looked great. And they're using her to the best of her ability. They're not having her do too much. Same thing with Jade. They're having her do her spots. But, you know, these mixed tag team matches, these little spots to you have her jump off the top rope and do the backwards caterpillar. It pops the crowd. And, you know, hopefully she is in her off time getting a little bit more as far as reps and, you know, learning the ropes even still in her off time. I'd like to see her improve. I think that would be a great thing. Mm-hmm. We got that, and then we got Braun Strowman is the other thing I wanted to talk about. He took Bronson Reed's place. This was a newsworthy topic going into Monday Night Raw last night, as Bronson Reed was not on the show after putting Braun Strowman through a vehicle last week in a great spot, which they did mention last night. He got COVID. He showed everybody the positive test on social media, so it wasn't some creative way to get him off the show to protect him. I think that was another happenstance. But in my honest opinion, Jason, if they were going to choose somebody to fill in for Bronson Reed, I think Braun Strowman was the right guy, because I do not think that these two beasts are done at all. Strowman's in the match next week. Hopefully Bronson Reed is cured and he's back next week in Calgary. I think Bronson Reed shows face in that four-way match and kind of takes Strowman out, and they continue their little mini feud until Rollins gets back, and then that leaves Jey Uso potentially to win that match. What did you think about Strowman taking his place, and how did you feel about Bronson Reed not being in the match and then having Strowman replace him, and then Strowman ending up winning that match? Was that actually safe for Bronson Reed to win that match and then go on to the Fatal 4-Way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Bronson Reed was going to win that match. And he was going to go on to the 4-way, and that's when Braun would have returned. So I don't think Braun was supposed to be on the show last night originally, because as soon as I saw him, my first reaction was, why the hell is he there? Like, after what we saw the week before, he's already back
I mean,
on TV?
Some Kinesio tape, man. That Kinesio tape must do wonders there, bro.
So to answer your question, it was stupid. Him being in the match was, if you really think about it, it was stupid. Okay, he shows up, and he's clearly not 100%. He's got tape all over his ribs. They have a makeup job to show bruising on the ribs. And Adam Pearce is like, oh, I wasn't expecting to see you here. And he goes, well, medical said that if I feel up to it, that I can wrestle. And Pearce is like, well, all right, if that's what medical said, and if you're okay with it, he goes, I'm okay with it. And then he comes out for the match, and he's walking out there. He's like limping along. He's holding his ribs. And I'm like, what a great medical team they have there in WWE, because in that same segment, Adam Pearce was just talking about how he's got a spot to fill, and he's got a hungry locker room with young talent just waiting for an opportunity. And then this guy walks in, he's the walking wounded, and so he's like, okay, you get the spot. Even though he could tell this man is nowhere near 100%, he's got a locker room full of people. All right, we'll let Braun Strowman have the spot. Just logically, it was stupid. But he won. And so now, provided Bronson Reed is cleared and able to come back next week, I do think that he shows up, because the last thing he wants is this guy who took his spot to win a shot at the Intercontinental title that he feels belongs to him. And that would make sense for him to kind of fight off with Strowman. That's why, I look at this Fatal 4-Way next week, and there's really, to me, there's only two options here. It's either Jey Uso or Ilya Dragunov. Because it's not going to be Strowman, I don't think, and it's not going to be Pete Dunne. So it's either Jey or Dragunov, and I think it'll be Jey, but I think that Dragunov has a shot. I think that if somebody were to get involved, the Judgment Day, and they could potentially cost Jay the match, then you could end up with Dragunov against Braun Breaker, and that could be a I don't know if it'd be the Raw main event, but it could be a Raw match, for the Intercontinental title. Because again, I don't see that being on the Bad Blood card.
Yeah, I could see that being the case, and I wouldn't mind that either. But you just whoever you're putting in that spot is losing, so it's like you might as well just put it in your head that Braun Breaker's not losing that Intercontinental title. At least I give him till WrestleMania, where I do want to see Sheamus win that championship at WrestleMania. That's my prediction there. But whoever wins this four-way is inevitably walking into a loss. So, if it's Jay, Rikishi will be upset and rant on social media. If Dragunov wins and loses to Braun Breaker, then social media will claim that Dragunov is buried and Triple H doesn't know what he's doing. So.
Oh, yeah, he's buried. Maybe they should do the buried alive match with him.
Maybe. That's everybody's favorite fucking word when something doesn't go that way. Buried.
There you go.
Please, learn the definition, folks. A little NXT No Mercy here, and then we'll get into the major story of Julia. We got Zachary Wentz. He defeated Wes Lee, Nathan Frazier, and Axiom. Love those guys. Defeated Chase U to become the new NXT Tag Team Champions again. There's something about Andre Chase that I love. I don't know what it is. He's just like I've grown to like him more and more every single week. I don't know what it is, but I think whoever he's paired with is always a quality act. So both of those tag teams are really good, in my honest opinion. Love Wes Lee as well. North American Championship, Kalani Joyner defeated Wendy Chu. Obafemi defeated Tony D'Angelo. I don't see that title coming off him anytime soon. Obafemi, that is. Roxanne Perez defeated Jada Parker. And then the big spot of the night is when Julia showed up. And everybody's new favorite word on social media, she has the aura, Jason. The aura of Julia is now in NXT. And there is a big report from Fightful on Julia in WWE and her future. Now, when Fightful asked about her presentation following her debut at No Mercy, Corey Brennan of Fightful was told that while Julia was attainable as, or actually Gloria was attainable, I'm sorry, as her theme music for Julia, it was never strongly considered as a new theme and was produced specifically for her debut. We are also told that the excess amount of fog and lights being turned out were intentional methods to draw out the surprise even longer, with one source pointing out the lack of a Tron until Julia emerged from the fog. There was a lot of secrecy regarding her debut, as one would expect, with sources in NXT not seeing her until moments before the finish of Roxanne and Jada Parker. And regarding her creative, Corey Brennan of Fightful has long been told that WWE has big plans for Julia and Roxanne, and that matchup, dating all the way back to NXT Stand and Deliver, where Julia was shown in the crowd prior to Perez's title win over Lyra Valkyria. We have not heard for sure if Roxanne was kept in the dark regarding Julia's appearance, as she has in the past, but one source noted that they wouldn't be surprised if Roxanne was kept out of the loop once again. When asking if anyone else was considered for the mystery spot, Brennan was met with firm no's, with plans to debut the likes of Delta and Stephanie Vaquer coming at later dates. Julia's hard date for beginning with NXT was said to be No Mercy, allowing her to finish her Marigold dates, including her final date that was added in order for her to compete in a gauntlet match against anyone who wanted to wrestle her before she left. From those that we spoke to within NXT, there was no heat on her for extending her time with Marigold, as it was known as a possibility even prior to her fractured wrist. As one would expect, her peers in Japan were all said to be legitimately happy to see her on the big stage in the United States. When asked in terms of reactions within NXT, several talents we spoke to said they were excited to see additional star power brought to the brand, and specifically the women's division. Now, NXT sources also say to Corey Brennan that most likely the landing spot for Julia versus Perez will be the Chicago CW debut, but would not be surprised to see Julia wrestle on NXT prior to this matchup. There was also a little concern with Julia changing up her style now that she's in NXT, with concerns of her being too stiff, being waved off by several sources since April. While asking about how long Julia is expected to stay in NXT, Corey Brennan was told that Julia signed a long-term deal with the company, and her tenure in the brand will be relative to how fast she takes to the American television style. Julia is expected to appear on NXT, which she did tonight. And as reported back in April, Julia is expected to be presented as one of the brand's top stars for the CW debut. So, sounds like to me, Jason, that title's going right to Julia as soon as that Roxanne match happens, whether it happens in Chicago for CW or it happens at Halloween Havoc or wherever they do it. We're looking like we're getting a new NXT Women's Champion before the end of the year.
Yeah, and apparently it was just confirmed that it will be on the CW debut.
There you go.
Julia and Roxanne Perez, and look, Roxanne's been on borrowed time for a while, and we knew that. We knew that for months, and I think it's going to be a great match. I think that it's the right time to do it. You know, you're going to be on a new network. You want to pop a big number. You want to have the biggest audience you possibly can get. That's a big match put on there, and they should have more big matches planned, even for the following Tuesday. That's when they're going to be up against the Dynamite, so you know they're going to want to load that show up. We remember what they did last year. So those are going to be, I think, maybe the two most important weeks, frankly, in NXT history, because they really want to come out of the gate, put their best foot forward. Julia is one way to do it. Stephanie Vicaire, I don't know what her visa situation is. I had heard that was still being worked on. That was the report I saw. So is she going to be available in time for those shows? If she is, I'm sure we'll see her there. You and I have talked about the Motor City Machine Guns. Might they show up in NXT? That could be a time. So, you know, it's an exciting time with all these new faces that are popping up and potentially popping up there. Julia is going to be, I mean, she's just on a different level. She just is. And I remember I didn't know too much about her, you know, a few years ago. And so I go down the YouTube rabbit hole and I started looking up highlights and matches. And I was blown away because obviously she's a beautiful woman, but I guess just by looking at her, I wasn't expecting the style that I saw. And that's what struck me, is that she does work a stiffer style. You know, when you're in there with her, you feel it. You know, she's not in there being soft on her opponents.
Well, that's the whole appeal to me. When I went down that rabbit hole and I watched whatever I found on YouTube, it's like, man, she's gorgeous, but I didn't expect her to wrestle that fucking stiff at all. It's like that's the biggest appeal there. Like, look at how beautiful she is, and she's fucking kicking ass like the men usually do. Man, that's exactly what you want out of women's wrestling.
Yeah, and so it reminds me of Asuka in that way, because Asuka wrestled also a very physical style. I mean, remember, Asuka was in the ring with Minoru Suzuki once, and so she's had some battles herself. But yeah, just the look, the braids. I mean, she didn't have the braids when we saw her at No Mercy, but everything about her to me just screamed like, this woman, if she ever decides to make the jump to the States or to WWE specifically, she's gonna be a huge star. So this was inevitable. It was only a matter of time. I think she's going to do great. I think that and Triple H was the one who was behind that Asuka push when she came to NXT all those years ago. So I trust that when the time comes that she goes to the main roster, he will realize and will know what he has in her and the star potential that's there. I hope she doesn't have to tone down her style too much. She may have to tone it down a little bit. There are some women on the roster I just can't. I mean, if you put her in the ring with some of these women, she'll kill them. So she may have to tone things down a little bit, but I don't want them to really betray who she is. You know, I don't want her to tone down too much. But just look at her during that entrance on Sunday night. Just her coming out. I know people. I'm trying not to use that word because I don't want to.
Yeah, she exuded superstardom. You could tell that even if you didn't know who she was, she felt like a big deal.
There's a certain charisma, physical charisma that she has that just radiates off her when you see her. And WWE is great when it comes to the presentation and the lighting and the maybe not the music, but the lighting and everything else. So they got a megastar as far as the women's division goes. They got a megastar in her, and I would expect her to walk out with that championship. I can't imagine she goes in there and loses on that CW debut. So we're gonna have a new NXT Women's Champion. I don't think she's going to be called up to the main roster so soon, but would not be surprised to see her make a cameo in the Royal Rumble in January.
I think Roxanne is absolutely ready for the main roster. I think that's inevitable. She is. You can just tell when you watch NXT that someone is ready to go, and I think she's ready to go. Julia.
Well, the heel. Let me say this: the heel turn did wonders for her.
And to be honest, I didn't like it at first because I thought it was just like, all right, Cora Jade's out. Now they're just going to give Cora's character to Roxanne, and Roxanne was like very goody two shoes. I'm like, do you believe her as a fucking nasty heel? But now she's kind of played the role, and I actually quite like it, honestly.
Yeah. I think from everything I've seen out of her since she turned, I mean, she's really excelled in the role. She's improved. She's gotten better. So, yeah, she's doing the best work of her career. There was talk about her being called up in the draft. So this is nothing new. Certainly by now, I think she's more than ready. I still don't necessarily see it happening, though, until the next draft. So I don't think she's going anywhere so soon. It should be a great match, though. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Is this I don't want to say a throwback. Is this WWE actually kind of reverting back to what NXT used to be with the signing of Julia, bringing in Delta and Stephanie Vaquer coming in? Is this like their mentality now going back to what they used to do with the black and gold? They want to present their women's division like they did during the black and gold era when it was at its peak and the revolution was really getting off and going. Is this them kind of going back to that with Julia? Is she going to be a catalyst for how we see women's wrestling play out on NXT and maybe potentially bleed to the main roster? Because like you said, I hope they don't tone her style down, because if Julia succeeds in NXT, which obviously everybody expects her to, and then makes the jump to the big stage on Raw and SmackDown, can we see women's wrestling change with her jumping to the main roster eventually?
Yeah, but change in what way? I feel like we saw that change already. I don't know that what other change.
Physicality, how we see women's wrestling. I mean, to me, I feel like there's a sterilization of women's wrestling on the main roster, like 2-minute matches, 3-minute matches. Things just kind of get thrown out there, and nobody really gives a shit. Like story, in-ring action, kind of taking wrestling to the next level with the ladies. Is she a catalyst for that?
No.
Okay.
I don't see any one person. I don't see any one talent being the catalyst to, change the way that Triple H is booking these women's matches or the time that gets devoted to them or anything like that. I don't see her being a change maker in that way. I do think that somebody like her could help some of the other women step up their game, because she is very good and she does work a more physical style. I think there's going to be other women who maybe don't, who are either by choice or by force, are going to have to step up and maybe also be a little more, rough in there. And that I could see her instigating that kind of change, maybe a little bit, but I don't see any radical changes being made. I still think that it's a matter of coming up with great stories. That really is the most important thing. We're seeing it right now with Rhea and Liv. We were just talking about it, right? Great story that's been playing on now for months, and it has caught on Raw. You look at the videos on YouTube, some of the highest viewed videos have to do with that storyline. So in her case, I see a lot of the Asuka push from all those years ago, 2015, 2016, where she, I think, is going to be just a wrecking machine who just goes undefeated for a while and is just wrecking shop. And what Gunther is, we call him the final boss on the main roster. She'll be that, I think, in that women's division. But is it going to change the way that the women are booked? No, I don't think so.
Well, it's exciting to be in NXT. Obviously, they're changing the way they perceive that women's division. They are very high on that women's division. And I'll be watching. I love Roxanne. And Julia versus Roxanne is slated for that CW show in Chicago. So we will definitely keep an eye on that. Moving on to other news and notes here coming out of WWE. Just briefly here, details on WWE's adjusted house show schedule. On Fightful's The Hump, Sean Ross Sapp noted that there is plans right now for drastic change in WWE's live events approach towards the end of the year. As of now, WWE only has 2 house shows in America listed before Christmas. That's on September 28th in Columbus, Georgia, and September 29th in Huntsville, Alabama. The December 28th Orlando show, which goes head-to-head with AEW's World's End pay-per-view, they're told that the holiday tour will continue as it's huge money for the company. However, there is a UK live event leg in October and then another in November. This allows the August run in Europe, July in Japan and Mexico, as well as April and May in Europe. There's a big step up from the international house shows last year, which talent expect to continue. Though talent haven't explicitly been told that house shows are being cut back, they did notice the trends and have unanimously told Fightful that they are in favor of the reduced schedule. As of now, WWE has no United States house shows listed for nearly 90 days after the Huntsville show. Why is that, Jason? I thought house shows were very imperative to WWE as far as getting reps for the talent and getting stuff that you don't normally see on television, maybe play out on the house shows before they do incorporate it into the television show. But it seems like the rumor of Triple H and the new administration really putting a focus on the talent being well rested and not overworking them and spending more time at home with families when there's opportunity to do that. Seems like we're shifting into a completely different mindset with Triple H at the helm and TKO now leading the company. What do you make of the adjusted house show schedule?
I think it was inevitable. I think this has been sort of the trend for the last few years. It was kind of headed in this direction. House shows used to be, uh, well, it was a barometer for a lot of different things, how business was doing in general. And, that's how they made their money through ticket sales and the live events. That's why, you go back 30 years. I mean, they were doing A shows, B shows, and C shows on the same night in different cities. You had different crews and, I mean, fanning out all over the country. And the schedule they maintained back then was just fucking inhumane. And think about this. They had that schedule in those old rings, which had no give.
Yeah.
So it's no wonder those guys ended up crippled up and addicted to all sorts of shit. Now it's a different time. I mean, you got to look at the business and the economics of it. I mean, their money is made really through television and through a lot of different means. And house shows, they're just not the priority they used to be. And so if you had the option of saying, okay, well, look, house shows maybe aren't as big of a moneymaker as they used to be, or they're not as important of a revenue stream as they used to be, and we have an opportunity here to preserve our talents and give them a little bit of a rest, so that they can be well rested, and maybe it cuts down on potential injuries. I mean, there's a lot of considerations to make there. I think it's good. I mean, I can understand why the talent would be in favor of it. There was a time, again, to take it back in wrestling, where if you didn't work, you didn't get paid. This is before the days of the guaranteed contracts. So guys wanted to get out on the road and they wanted to work, or else they didn't get paid. You don't really have that issue now. If they're going to run fewer house shows, I don't know that the economics for the talent changes all that much. It's just a different era. It's a different world now. To me, it makes sense. You don't need to run as many shows because that's just not, again, the real money is not made there anymore. It's made elsewhere.
Yeah, I also like the quality over quantity aspect of it too. The less you do something, the more valuable it will be, and people will want to come out if WWE's in town. Plus, most of the talent lives in the Florida region anyway, so it's like they got the Performance Center right at their fingertips. If they need to do anything, as far as reps and get work in and train, it's all right there. So it's like it's a win-win for them. So if you guys are looking for any WWE house shows upcoming, you're going to have a shortage of them. So pick and choose which ones you're going to go to. But that holiday tour is still going to be every year for WWE. But I think I'll be in Orlando for World's End at the end of the year. I don't know. I think I may check out a house show. We'll see.
Well, I mean, it's right up the road, right?
Yeah.
It's like 30 minutes away. So
yeah. So that's in the news for WWE. We did not talk about this. Joe Tessitore last night. What'd you think, man? I quite enjoyed him. He did come off enthusiastic at parts. I loved when the action really got intense. I loved the way he kind of overexerted himself. I heard a little Moro in there. I'm a big Moro guy. But he's got a real sportscaster voice. He brings a real sports presentation to the show, which I think AEW could use that as well. I love that presentation. It really feels like a big deal when someone like that is at the helm. The one thing, actually two things I did not like about Tessitore last night, which I thought he did a really good job. It's his first night. I'm not going to fucking zing him on 1,000 different things because, it's his first night. He'll get his bearings. But I did feel like he was a little kind of quiet at some points. Like you couldn't really... His voice could have been a little louder during some parts of the match, and I felt like there was a lot of dead air for some reason. And you and I both do commentary for I'm terrified of dead air. Like I don't normally, if you know me away from YouTube, I do not like to converse. I'm a very introverted person. I find it difficult to create topical conversation. But dead air, man, I hate dead air. And there was a little dead air last night. I was like, ugh. Just listening to that, watching from home, it kind of gave me that cringy aspect, man. It's like, oh man, did someone say something, please? Yeah,
Wade had to dive in there.
Yeah, so that was a little jarring to see that and hear that. But all in all, I thought he did a great job, and he's going to be fine.
Yeah, I think I said I had given him a little report card last night. I would give him a solid B. I think maybe B plus. I mean, I thought he did very good for his first night. It's a tough spot to be in also because he's replacing Michael Cole as the voice of Raw, and Michael Cole has 25 years of experience calling pro wrestling. Going back to when Jim Ross got sick and he had to step in 99 to take his spot on Raw, and then he got shit on in 2008 when he took his spot on Monday Night Raw in the draft and they flipped. But Cole, has been doing Raw now for a while. And so now we have somebody new, and there's going to be a lot of comparisons, one to the other. He's never called pro wrestling before, ever. He's been a wrestling fan, though, which helps. He's got product knowledge. And that was my criticism of him as well. If I had a critique, it was that he was on the low side as far as his voice, but also the enthusiasm. But then there were other moments, like during the Punk and McIntyre angle, where I thought he did really well.
Yeah.
And one aspect of it I actually liked is, normally in these WWE angles, when you have somebody who shows up, and in this case, McIntyre was in a hoodie, and you could tell who it is, but the announcers have to play dumb, like, who's that? And Tessitore was like, oh, that's Drew McIntyre in a hoodie. I'm like, there you go. Someone who finally makes
listen,
sense.
Man, we're guilty of doing that on Hog Commentary too. It's like I don't know what to do, but I know who it is.
Yeah, but sometimes we're
who's that?
Yeah, but sometimes we're so far away from the ring, we don't have a fucking monitor. I can't see who it is, so that's just me not knowing, even though I'm the commissioner. But so I like that. So I thought he did a good job there when McIntyre was just pummeling this guy and just raining blows down upon him, and he was kind of getting into it. But there were other points in the show where it was like, yeah, come on, dude, like a little more life to it. And I just think that's something that'll come with time. So I'm optimistic, about how he'll do. We have to take a wait and see approach because we had the Adnan Virk experiment and Jimmy Smith, and Kevin Patrick. So we've been through this before. It's one night. I thought he did fine, and I think he'll improve on those things as time goes on.
Yeah, Tessitore right now will remain with Wade Barrett on Monday night until we move to Netflix. Monday Night Raw on Netflix will be Michael Cole and Pat McAfee when he finishes his college football game day stuff. That will be the commentary team there. The only aspect of it, that's when Tessitore and Wade Barrett will move back to SmackDown. The only aspect of it, I don't know where Corey Graves goes. The report says Graves and Barrett will remain on SmackDown with Joe Tessitore, but I do feel, I think you mentioned this a couple of weeks ago on the show, I wouldn't be surprised if they do the three-man booth for the 3-hour show and Corey Graves works alongside Pat McAfee and Michael Cole. And they do Tessitore and Barrett on SmackDown by themselves.
Well, I mean, that's what seemed to make sense to me. But no, I think it's going to be Cole and McAfee. I don't think they want to disrupt that whole chemistry that the two of them have. And I actually think that might be a good thing, having the three of them on SmackDown, because that, as somebody who is so new to this, even though by then he'll be a few months in, him working in a three-man booth might actually be very beneficial to him.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
And for the reasons that you mentioned, if we're a few months in and there's still issues of maybe dead air and stuff like that, you won't have that issue if you've got 3 announcers instead of 2, and he won't have to carry the load as much because it's a lot of work. And in their case, it's tough because you have ad reads and you have things to plug. It's not just calling the matches.
Yeah.
They're telling stories in between the matches. They're filling us in on what happened before the break or the week before. They're calling the actual matches. They're promoting the PLE coming up. It's a lot. So I think being in a 3-man booth probably is the best thing for him, honestly.
And Corey Graves is excellent at his job. So I think Tessitore will ease into the role like we all want him to with Graves and Barrett there, who are both excellent. Barrett is really good. So, yeah, I could see that very much being the case. WWE will tape Monday Night Raw in Saudi Arabia. This is for the November 4th episode. That is Crown Jewel weekend. They are doing this to spare the talent from flying from Saudi to wherever Monday Night Raw would usually be on a Monday. So they are keeping the talent there through Monday and then flying the talent back home after Raw, which is the best way to do it. I don't know why it hasn't been done yet, but that's exactly what they're doing it for. So if you guys love the Saudi shows, Monday Night Raw will be emanating from Saudi on Monday, November 4th. So that is the scheduling update there. WrestleMania will not be taking place in Philadelphia. The governor's office has reached out to Fightful saying earlier this week that their comment that they put up indicating WrestleMania 26 will be in Philly is a mistake. The statement was mistaken, and we apologize for the confusion amid all the incredible events Pennsylvania is excited to host in 2026. While WrestleMania won't be here in 26, we look forward to continuing to work with WWE and wrestling fans all across our Commonwealth to bring more great events to PA in the future, says Manuel Bonder, spokesman for Governor Shapiro, who issued the original statement. I was thinking back, Jason, when I seen this going around when it was in the news feeds earlier in the week. I mean, Jesus Christ, holy shit. WrestleMania was going to be in Minneapolis, and then somebody kind of leaked that, and then they kind of pulled that, and they were given SummerSlam instead. I was thinking maybe this was going to be a similar situation, but having back-to-back WrestleMania so close in the same city doesn't really seem like something WWE would do anyway. And I think, I remember Nick Khan even speaking that weekend because it was fucking cold in Philadelphia. I was there on night one. I'm not in the building, but I had a tailgate with Ticket Drew there. Freezing. Like, I didn't even bring a hoodie. It was so fucking cold. I was expecting warmer weather. Fuck me, I guess. But Nick Khan said if they do run a city like that on the East Coast, they would probably look at May being a WrestleMania month for the first time ever, just to kind of clear of the cold weather that would be. What'd you make of this? And why did that come out the way that it did, and then they immediately retract the statement? What's going on here?
I don't know. It was very weird. At first, when I saw that, I thought maybe he was referring to having just hosted WrestleMania, as an example of all these great events that we've been bringing to the city. And then I thought, well, maybe it's not that. Maybe they're going to bring another event. That didn't make sense, though, because if you were going to bring a big show, a stadium show back to Philly, it would only be Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, or SummerSlam. Well, you're not going to bring Royal Rumble to an outdoor stadium in the Northeast. Okay,
No.
So the hell with that. That's not going to happen. And SummerSlam in 2026 is already locked in for Minneapolis, so it could only be WrestleMania. So I don't know. I mean, that just seems the lines got crossed up somehow there. Not to say they won't bring another WrestleMania to the Northeast, but like you said, it would be late April, maybe early May. I could see like a Cinco de Mayo theme WrestleMania one year. I could see that. At the end of the day, it comes down to what each individual city is willing to do for WWE. And what incentives are they offering? How much are they willing to pay? It all comes down to the bidding process. So, they may go back to Philadelphia at some point, but you could tell the difference in crowd reactions from night one to night two.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
think a lot of it had to do with people just freezing their ass off.
It was brutal.
You could tell just by watching it was brutal.
It was fucking windy.
You can't enjoy it.
Next
you
time,
can't enjoy yourself.
No. Now, next time I'll bring a proper jacket, but
Gotta bring gloves. You gotta, you should wear that hat with the little ball on top.
yeah,
Yeah.
bring a portable heater. I mean, never
Sure.
again. Jesus.
Hot cocoa.
Yeah.
Or some of that mushroom shit you were telling me about that you were drinking.
Yeah,
What's that, mushroom,
I drink it iced though. It's not hot.
mushroom coffee. Is that what it is?
Yeah, mushroom coffee. Yeah, I'm
right.
a fucking. What do they call them? Yuppies. Man, you put a fancy coffee shop in my area, man. Forget about it. I lose my mind.
Yeah. So that'll be you. You'll be the one guy sitting there with your mushroom coffee and your winter hat with the little ball on top and the red cheeks. And yeah, that'll be WrestleMania. So as far as where it may end up in 2026, that's still an open question. WWE obviously has not locked in a location yet. There's been a lot of rumors about different places. I should mention, that's not why Minneapolis didn't get WrestleMania. It had nothing to do with anybody leaking it. Obviously, it wasn't locked in yet, but there was a change in the administration. And it's just whatever conversations may or may not have been going on prior to that change, everything goes out the window. And it's a different world now. It's a different ball game. And I'm not shocked they wanted to bring Mania to Las Vegas. Las Vegas is the hub for UFC. There was another report going around about the PC moving, which turned out to not be entirely accurate, but it sounds like they may have a presence at some point out in Las Vegas. So that doesn't surprise me. As far as 42 is concerned, look, there's still talk about London. Remember Triple H and Nick Khan? They met with the mayor of London. Could London get a WrestleMania as early as 2026? Possible, right? Anything's possible.
Yeah, Tennessee's been rumored. Atlanta's been rumored. New Orleans. We don't know. I mean,
yeah. Well, it's not locked in yet. Those conversations are still happening.
WWE's been very strategic with their event announcements. They have a time and a place when they already know when they're going to announce it. I'm sure they already have a place in mind. It's just us waiting to find out when. But moving on with the WWE notes here, Odyssey Jones, everybody has seen what was going on with Odyssey Jones on social media. He was removed from WWE.com. And I'm going to preface this and say we don't really have any information on this, but this news article from Fightful. They were given heads up on Sunday that Odyssey's status had changed within the company, but weren't given any clarification. It was confirmed to Fightful on Monday afternoon that Odyssey Jones wasn't at Raw and was not factored into creative plans for that evening. Beyond that, it was also noted that Odyssey was not at last week's Raw and was not in the immediate creative plans with no further context provided. Last week, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods referenced Odyssey without mentioning him by name. Talent we've spoken to haven't heard from WWE about what's going on with Odyssey Jones. Fightful reached out to WWE in an official capacity and have not heard back. Brian Alvarez, as of tonight, said Odyssey Jones is indeed fired from WWE. Take that with a grain of salt coming from The Observer, but he did put that out there on The Observer Live and on social media. For those asking, his removal from WWE's website was not a glitch that Meltzer had thrown out there earlier this morning. Now, I thought it was part of a storyline. I didn't really want to think, bad about what had happened because that's just unfair, but I thought it was part of a storyline. Maybe Xavier Woods was playing up the heel thing a little early, and we were going to get something with all three of them. But in the end, Jason, it seems like it comes down to a domestic violence situation. And again, we don't have any news on the matter here. We will not speculate. But coming from a background, me, my family, my parents of domestic violence and abuse, and I've seen what it does to people. I've seen what it does to families. I've had to live through it. It's terrible. I'm still living through it now as a fucking adult, and I got to hear about it every other week. But it's a terrible situation. We just got done with the Nikki Bella situation. Believe it or not, she is actually in the reports now getting a divorce from her husband because of a domestic violence situation. We're hearing a lot more about this shit, man. It's just very sad that it would result in this. And again, we don't have any physical evidence. We don't know what had happened, but yeah, it sucks that Odyssey Jones waited 2 years to be showcased on the main roster after being called up from NXT. He got put with two of the most valued guys that they have there, Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, one of the greatest tag teams of all time, as a new rendition of the New Day. And all this stuff comes out about him. And it's just a sad situation. I'm sorry to hear that it happened, honestly.
You know, the timing is obviously, for WWE, the timing is not ideal. You had this man twice drafted to Raw, and we've been making jokes about this now for 2 years, you know? Drafted to Raw, never showed up once on TV. Finally, he shows up on television and is introduced into this storyline where the storyline's starting to actually become interesting somewhat, this whole New Day potential split, and now this happens. I don't have much else to say about this because I know all the reports are out there about domestic violence. We don't know. Nothing is confirmed as far as whether it was a domestic violence issue, if it was some sort of behavioral issue behind the scenes. Was there some sort of failure? We don't know. We don't know. Nothing has.
I was going to say all we have is an account that was surfaced as of July 2024. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not even gonna mention that. So whatever it was, I will say this though. Whatever it was, first of all, him being removed from the roster page and nobody else was removed from the roster page, that's not an accident.
Yeah.
That's not a glitch. So that right there told you, okay, something's up here. And then the silence from WWE about it. When these websites reached out to them, and they get back pretty quickly when there's something to deny or some kind of report that's inaccurate, like they did with the WrestleMania thing, right? WrestleMania 2026, and they put a statement out pretty quickly saying, or some of these websites, like, that's not true.
Yeah.
So the fact that they were so quiet, nobody could seem to get a straight answer, and the abruptness of how this all went down, one thing I do know, whatever the reason was, it must be something bad. Because that doesn't happen unless something bad happened and WWE does not want to talk about it. They don't want to dwell on it. They want to deal with it, and they want to move on as quietly as possible. I'm sure the real reason, the confirmed reason, will come out soon enough, maybe even by the end of this week. But right now, we don't know what we don't know. The only thing we know is WWE is not going to get rid of Odyssey Jones in the middle of a fucking storyline when they just introduced him to the world on TV. Unless they have a damn good reason for doing so. And that's not good for Odyssey Jones. And that's really all there is to say about it. I can't comment one way or the other. I don't feel sorry for the guy. If he did something stupid, then he deserves it. But I don't know what he did. And so until we know for sure, there really isn't anything else to say other than the timing for the company sucks. The timing for the New Day story sucks. it really throws, a monkey wrench into that whole thing as far as where that goes now, because Odyssey Jones, his inclusion in this story was clearly going to be the catalyst for something between Kofi and Woods. And I'm not saying they can't work around that. They can, because the story had started even before Odyssey Jones debuted. But it does make things harder now, with him not being around. Given the things that we're hearing, that may be the least important aspect to this story.
Yeah, sounds like Odyssey Jones has taken his final Odyssey. Goodbye. So.
Yeah. Man, what a waste. What a waste. How many years?
I don't know, man. He had a lot of potential. He did. He was charismatic. He was fun-loving. He moved around for a guy his size. It's just sad to see, honestly.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, the situation itself is sad to see. But again, sometimes people do stupid things, and whether it was something recent or something from his past that they found out about, like I said, it was serious enough. They're not going to do that. They're not going to take him off television like that unless they feel like, oh shit, we got to get him out of there. And that doesn't sound good. That sounds really fucking serious. So I'm gonna reserve my feelings of feeling sorry for the person until we find out exactly what we're dealing with here. But it doesn't sound good.
Yeah, well, the company that is walking on eggshells because they don't know what's happening with Vince and the whole Janelle Grant situation. They got the Vince documentary coming out, and that's happening on September 25th on Netflix. I am very interested to see what this will be all about. Mr. McMahon, a 6-episode, hour-long documentary series directed and executive produced by Chris Smith, who was part of the Tiger King, that chronicles the rise and fall of the controversial former WWE boss, Mr. McMahon. An unflinching, no-holds-barred look at one of the most enigmatic features in sports entertainment. The documentary follows McMahon from his transformation of WWE from a small regional business into a global entertainment powerhouse through the explosive sexual misconduct allegations that led to his eventual resignation. And according to Netflix, the documentary is culled from over 200 hours of interviews with McMahon himself, his family members, business associates, and some of the most iconic names in wrestling history, as well as journalists who cover the McMahon's allegations. And there will not be any Janelle Grant stories coming out in this as far as interviews. Nobody from that side is going to be interviewed for this at all. So,
yeah, and let me just say that. I mean, I'm sure it'll be mentioned in there, but there was a report, I think, from WrestleNomics that she was invited to participate in. Why would anybody think that she would say yes, or her lawyer would advise her to say yes to that?
I don't know. It doesn't even make sense. Yeah.
No, it doesn't make sense at all. And there were people like, oh, well, she should come. Like, no. These are people that know absolutely nothing about anything. If you think that she is somehow in the wrong for not agreeing to be part of this and speaking out publicly in a television show or a documentary, no, her job right now is to keep a low profile and follow her lawyer's advice. I don't know why anybody would think she would be involved in this in any way.
McMahon, yes, it says here, neither Janelle nor her representatives were interviewed for this project, a spokesman for Grant said in a statement to Deadline. So, Jason, what is this going to be? Because I think a lot of people are looking to watch this and have great interest in this because of the Janelle Grant stuff. And now the Janelle Grant stuff probably will be mentioned, but nobody from that side is going to be interviewed. How far is it going to go? What can they talk about? Where are they going to stop, when it comes to McMahon? And is this going to be as bad for WWE as they may be fearing here with the Vince documentary coming out?
No, I don't think it'll be any worse than probably anything we already know about the situation. I don't think we're going to learn much in the way of new allegations or anything that we isn't already out there in the public realm. I think that Bill Simmons is attached to this. And Bill Simmons is very friendly to WWE. Bill Simmons also produced the Andre the Giant documentary several years ago, and with cooperation from WWE. It aired on HBO. I don't know if you saw it, but it was very good. It was a very good documentary. And again, they had to work with WWE to get access to footage of Andre, but I thought it was a pretty fair portrayal in that they didn't try to just go with the usual myths and stories that you hear, WWE talking about. That gives me hope that this one will also turn out to be a quality documentary, but how far are they willing to go? I don't know. They have 200 hours of interviews with Vince that they recorded before the first Wall Street Journal story dropped. Once that happened, I guess they didn't interview him again after that. But they sat down with him for 200 hours. So, and how much of that will actually make it into the documentary? Again, it's only 6 hours long, 6-hour-long episodes. I'm interested to see exactly what they do touch on and maybe more so what they don't. But Vince has had a very interesting life. And in that life, there are a lot of other controversies. It's not just the Janelle Grant stuff and the hush money payments. There's been other allegations that go all the way back to 1986. There are other stories from his career that aren't of a sexual nature, but he's been involved in a lot of shit, steroid trials or steroid trial, I should say. But there were other incidents even in the mid 2000s, tanning salon incident. You can't tell the full Vince McMahon story without touching on that stuff. So how much of that are they going to get into? I think that anybody watching this expecting that, Vince, I want him to comment on this storyline and that storyline. Like, that's not what this is. They're going to have limited time, but that's not what this is. If they're going to tell an unflinching story, though, an accurate, unflinching portrait that they're going to paint of this man's life, they're going to have to get into some pretty sordid stuff. And it is airing on Netflix, which is going to be the new home of Monday Night Raw in just a few months. One should not have an impact on the other. Vince McMahon is no longer affiliated with this company, but it doesn't necessarily paint the company in a great light either. So it's a weird situation for them to be in. I'm keeping my expectations low.
Yeah.
But I'm keeping an open mind because, again, I do think back to that Andre documentary and I was impressed with it. And there's so much about him. I said this on my show. It's too bad Vince is such a fucking scumbag because he is somebody who would, if he sat down to be interviewed about his life, it would be a fascinating listen. If he wanted to write a book and I trust that he would tell the truth and he remembered details about things, I would buy that book in a second.
It's funny you said that. I said that same exact thing when I covered this on Friday when I was doing SmackDown. And before I got into the YouTube thing, obviously we were all big WWE fans. When someone asked me, who do you want to talk business with? Who would you pick your brain about business? Sit down at dinner. Two people who you would pick the brain of any two guys about business. It would be Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon was always one. And Gene Simmons would be the other. And I mentioned this on Friday. Vince McMahon and Gene Simmons would be the two people. Early JD, young JD would pick the brains of those two guys business-wise. I thought Vince is the businessman that you want leading your company. Business-wise, Vince McMahon, that's the type of guy you want to associate with. Whoever the fuck this is, nobody wants to deal with this fucking guy. But, I said that same thing. And I mentioned as well, you mentioned here, do we get any pulling back of the curtain with some of these stories, like the Jimmy Snuka story, maybe the Ashley Massaro story? Or are they just going to keep it very to what we've already heard so far?
I see that stuff like the Ashley Massaro thing. That could almost be its own documentary. Yeah. I don't see that being even mentioned. The Snuka thing, again, I think it should be. I really do. I feel like that's something
what else could be said? The guy's dead, so he's not whatever.
Yeah, but you know what? You want to paint a full picture of this guy and the lengths he was willing to go to protect his talent and some of the shit. Because that's a famous story that's followed him around for many years and was never really fully resolved. The thing about that was just so bizarre to me is we never would have known about that were it not for Jimmy Snuka in his book. That's where the whole story comes from when he got in trouble. For those who don't know, real quick, Jimmy Snuka, he had a girlfriend on the road, even though he was married. And I've talked about this on my show because the woman that he was with was actually a friend of a family friend. My mother had a very close friend, and she was very good friends with Nancy, who was killed. And that whole thing was just so weird. And then Vince ended up being called into it. And supposedly, as the story goes, he helped cover things up for old Jimmy. And he was spotted walking into the police station there. I think it was up in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And he had a briefcase. And he went in there to go meet with the cops. Closed door meeting. Nobody knows what was discussed. Nobody knows what happened. But charges were never pressed against Jimmy Snuka, even though there was seemingly reason to believe he was involved with what happened to his girlfriend. Well, nobody would have known that story about Vince in the briefcase if Jimmy didn't talk about it in his book that he saw Vince go in there with a briefcase and nobody knows what was discussed. And then all of a sudden, Jimmy's off the hook. You don't think that raises suspicion?
Gee, I wonder what was in the briefcase.
Gee, I don't know. Don't know. So it's just stuff like that. I feel like it should be mentioned. You're not going to break any new ground because all the players are either gone or they're not going to talk. But the Ashley Massaro thing, yeah, I don't. That's not something I think that's necessarily even relevant here to this particular documentary. I mean, you could certainly throw that in the large pile of stories that don't paint Vince McMahon in a very good light. But we'll see if it's a fair portrayal. He's been he's the most successful wrestling promoter in the history of the business. And you can certainly give him his flowers as far as all that he has accomplished in taking WWE from what it was to what it is today, right? Because it has grown exponentially. That's certainly fair. But you cannot tell his story without talking about all of this other stuff. And that's his legacy now. Whatever you feel about Vince McMahon, I don't give a shit. Vince McMahon, look, I grew up a WWF fan. I'm grateful for all the years, all the wonderful pro wrestling I got to watch as a kid, and he was responsible for. It doesn't change the fact that his legacy now, going forward until the day he dies, he will go down as part of his legacy. He is a sexual deviant. And when people think of Vince McMahon, that is one of the things they will think of. Oh, it's the wrestling guy. Oh, it's also that guy that did all that horrible shit. That's his legacy now.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, whether you believe all the allegations or not, that's his legacy now. And so that has to be part of the story they tell in this documentary. If not, I'm sorry, then the documentary loses a lot of credibility.
We will see. I'll be watching on September 25th, Netflix. So you guys will definitely be hearing about that for sure, whether it's on our end individually or right here on TNT. And finally, we'll end with this. This one was a big story this week that got a lot of people up in arms on social media. It is an AEW story. Swerve Strickland, Daniel Garcia, Mercedes Moné, and all the big AEW contracts. Well, Daniel Garcia, not so much because he hasn't really been offered a contract and hasn't taken any offer yet. But all these big contracts from AEW apparently is getting a reaction from WWE. And WWE says it's bad for the business, it's bad for the industry, it's bad for the sport. Fightful Select reported after AEW All In that Swerve Strickland was given one of the biggest contracts in AEW history. Wrestling Observer reported Friday that WWE sources expected Daniel Garcia to remain with AEW as well. Fightful also says that AEW sources are also of the belief that he is remaining with the company, though it is not confirmed. On Friday, Wrestling Observer also reported that WWE perceived the offers to both as bad for the sport because they're over what WWE viewed Garcia and Strickland's market value to be. Yes, let's have WWE police what everybody should be making when then themselves could buy anything that they fucking want and pay whatever the fuck they want to anybody, but here we are. Fightful reached out to WWE in both an official and unofficial capacity and did not hear back from the company at that level. Within AEW, they had traveled backstage, among several top WWE execs that felt this way, with some pointing the finger at one particular name that they're trying to verify. Fightful is yet to hear the sentiment echoed within WWE, but that doesn't mean it wasn't said. We spoke to one WWE talent that said, I myself haven't heard that, but whether or not it was said, anyone thinking wrestlers will take less money is out of their minds when new TV deals are being announced, sellouts and record numbers are being bragged about. We can't speak to the nature of Daniel Garcia's contract, but with Swerve, he is said to be in the neighborhood of top AEW wrestlers, including Okada and Mercedes' recent deals. Those contracts are also near what many long-term WWE veterans made on their last deal, though AEWs have significantly less dates that end up being applied. As for the talents, as one could imagine, it's been universally positive with support from those we've spoken to across every major company and the independents. Many contracts have changed in structure, in both companies since AEW started, with higher guarantees being handed out both in 2019 and in 2024 when many deals came up. Now, as far as it being bad for this sport, Jason, I guess we should start there. Both companies, right out of the gate, are run two different ways. WWE is a publicly traded company on Wall Street. AEW is not. WWE has a payroll and shareholders to answer to. Tony Khan has no payroll as of right now, unlimited bankroll. He can do and sign whatever the fuck he wants. And it's play money to him. It doesn't really matter unless they are a publicly traded company like WWE, and then you have to monitor what he's spending and what's going in and out. So that's number one. Number two, WWE has some balls to police what AEW is doing with their contracts. It sounds like some salt is coming off WWE for the fact that Swerve turned them down twice and doesn't want to go back there based on how he was treated. The fact that Tony Khan outbid them for Mercedes. The fact that Tony Khan outbid them for Will Ospreay and Kazuchika Okada. Mind you, WWE could have had all these talents, but one way or another, they weren't offering enough money because they can't, and they have shareholders to answer to, or creatively, most of these talents realized what they had to go up against the first time and didn't want to be back there because they didn't trust the company, whether it was the old administration or not. That shit's going to take a little bit of time to get over. And as far as being bad for the sport, the only thing I could say about this in regards to that term is Tony Khan needs to be very careful with what he does from this point on. A TV deal, in my opinion, is not going to save AEW. And for the massive amount of spending that they do and this TV deal, the stadium shows and everything else that everybody's hyping up, they still have genuine core problems that they are not addressing, and I don't see them addressing anytime soon. The one thing that I see Tony Khan doing is eventually, when you get a Swerve coming up on a contract and Mercedes coming up on a contract and Okada coming up on a contract, Will Ospreay, what they're making now, why would they want to make less than what they made previously? So no matter what is going to happen, Tony Khan's going to be looking at free agency at some point with these names, and they're going to be signed for the same amount that they're making now, the big money's thrown out there, or possibly even more. That's what WWE's upset about. They're marking these people out of free agency, and Mercedes making $4 million a fucking year. WWE's not going to be able to pay that for Mercedes, so that's where their issue is coming from. And Tony Khan's eventually going to buy himself and mark himself out of the fucking market, and I don't even think he fucking cares at this point. So I don't know what you think of it, but it's really a give or take situation. What's your take on this?
My first thought when I heard it, and again, this report is only from Dave.
Yes.
So this is something that he claims he was told by somebody in WWE. So that's where this comes from. So we're taking this at face value and assuming that he was told this, and there's at least one person, if not more than one person in that company who feels this way unofficially, right? This is how they feel. And I heard that they said that they feel these offers to Swerve and to Daniel Garcia. And what we heard about Swerve is that first of all, we know he's signed through 2029. So he just signed a new deal. Supposedly, it is one of the richest deals in all of wrestling. And I think Meltzer also was the one who said that it's said to be more than what Kevin Owens is making. And supposedly Kevin Owens in the final year of his 3-year deal, which I think he's in the middle of now, is potentially making $3 million.
And you know what? Before you go on, good for him. He's worked his ass off to get where he is. Good for him. Make his money.
Good for him and good for Swerve.
Yeah.
Is what I was also going to say, because the belief then is that Swerve could be making more than that. Good. Swerve has put the work in. Swerve is he's reaping the rewards. He's put the work in, and he is now in a main event position in the company that he works for. And he is a guy that they can build around. Not the only guy, but he is a guy at the top that they can build around. And it does feel like he was here and now he's here. And I'm happy for him because he deserves all the success. My other reaction was, boy, this is really rich. Coming from a company. Now, you remember what was going on in 2019?
Absolutely.
When AEW first started and the contract offers that were being made to people like Dax and Cash.
Fucking Gallows and Anderson.
Okay? The reported deals that were being offered individually, not just as a team, but individually to them. We're talking at least high 6 figures, at least. And these are people that were not being used in any prominent position on the roster, but WWE was scared to death that they were all going to leave and they were going to go work for this new company that was starting up at the time. And that's the only reason why they were throwing all of this money at these teams at that time to try to keep them from going to AEW. Now they turn around and they say, well, you're going to pay all this money to Swerve Strickland. You're going to pay all this money to Daniel Garcia and Mercedes and all these people. Well, that's just going to be bad for the sport. The reality is this. WWE does not get to dictate what the market value is for these people. The market gets to dictate what the market value is for these people. And if the market dictates that Swerve Strickland can get himself a $4 million contract or a $5 million contract, whatever it is, then guess what? Swerve Strickland's going to get himself a $5 million contract, and good for him.
No, he's going to say no.
Yeah, well, it's not even a matter of him saying no. It's just, again, if his employer feels that he's worth that amount of money and he's willing to commit that to Swerve, then that's what the market dictates. That's not going to hurt the sport. I don't see it that way. That's not going to hurt the sport. Now, when you look at somebody like a Daniel Garcia, do I think that Daniel Garcia should be making that kind of money? If let's say that's what Swerve Strickland is making, should Daniel Garcia be getting, a $4 million contract, which I don't know that he is, but let's just say it's not what I would pay. And I can understand WWE not wanting to pay that. But again, as far as the talent is concerned, if they can get that kind of money, great.
Yeah, but at what point does Tony Khan say, all right, enough is enough? Like you just mentioned Gallows and Anderson,
Dax,
that's up
to Tony Khan. That's up to Tony Khan.
But don't you think Tony Khan is doing the same thing WWE did? He's basically signing these people so they don't go to WWE?
No, I don't necessarily think that's the only consideration that he's making here. I think
it is a consideration, not the only.
No, but there's a big difference here. Okay, what we're talking about here, let's just take Swerve, right? Swerve was the AEW World Champion up until a few weekends ago. Swerve Strickland has been pushed, whether he was always a main eventer, he was a tag team champion with Keith Lee. From the day that he came into AEW in 2022, Swerve Strickland was pushed. He was a pushed commodity, and Tony Khan eventually put his world championship on him, and he believed in him and trusted in him. He is a star in AEW. So if Tony Khan says, you know what, one of my stars, I want to give him what I feel he deserves, and I want to make him happy so that he doesn't leave, and he stays with us, because I got plans for him. I understand that. That makes all the sense in the world, and if that means $3 million, $4 million, then fine. What we were just talking about before, you're saying, oh, isn't that the same thing WWE was doing? No, it's not, because the Revival, Anderson and Gallows, what were they doing with those guys at the time? Do you think Vince McMahon was sitting there and he was going, well, we can't lose the Revival here because we've got so much invested in these guys, so we're going to throw $1 million each at them to make sure they stay with us because we can't possibly lose these guys. The only reason the WWE would have done that back then was to keep them from going somewhere else. There was no other consideration. They could pay them $1 million a piece, and they would still be getting jobbed out on Monday Night Raw. That's the difference.
So you don't
with Swerve. Wait a minute. Oh, no, hold on. With Swerve, I do believe that he is factored into AEW's plans going forward. He will be used in a meaningful way, whether it's for the world title or not. That was not the case with those other people that we just mentioned. That was the only reason they were being offered that money. That's the difference between the two.
So, Tony, you don't think at all Tony Khan is keeping people on his payroll so they don't go to WWE? You don't find that to be somewhat similar in the same way?
No, I didn't say that.
It is an aspect of it. That's to me, I always thought Tony Khan was collecting pro wrestling.
Why else do you sign people to contracts? Of course, that's an aspect to it. Why else do you sign people to contracts? Because you want to make a commitment to them.
My point is, at what point does it end? Like, yeah, great. All these talent, he's got the best roster on the fucking planet. I get it. But what is he doing as far as bringing these people in? What type of return on investment is he getting? The numbers haven't gone up. They haven't generated any interest. At what point do you say, all right, me giving Swerve $5 million a year and he's drawing $400,000 in the fucking quarter hour at 9:15? Like, I mean, that's not worth $5 million a year.
Well, to you, that's not worth $5 million a year. To Tony Khan, that's worth $5 million a year. He feels that it is. This is a man who's willing to put down hundreds of thousands of dollars to use fucking Final Countdown for one night on a pay-per-view. So he's making these decisions in his head about what's worth it and what's not. He said before he's paid for music that it's 1 year's salary for a wrestler. At some point, there will be a reckoning. If Tony Khan does not get the television deal that he is looking for with Warner Brothers Discovery, he's going to have to start making some very difficult decisions. There are going to have to be talent cuts made. There may be other cuts made, production cuts, who knows? But that's a decision that he's going to have to make. He's banking on the fact that he can afford it. He knows what his budget is. We don't know. Like you said, it's a private company. It's not publicly traded. We don't know what his budget is. You said before, Tony Khan has no budget. He can spend unlimited. He really can't. I know it feels like it, but he himself has said that they try to stick to a budget. Whatever that budget is, I don't know.
And he's a very analytical guy, in my opinion, from what I've seen.
Yeah,
So
he's a numbers
he has
guy.
to know.
He's a numbers guy. There is a limit. We don't know what it is, but there is a limit that he will not go past. And he knows, okay, I can't spend beyond that. But the fact is, I think what he's doing also is, again, he's baking in whatever money he is banking on coming in from this television deal. He knows what he's getting now. He knows what he either wants to get or expects to be getting soon. And I would like to think, I would hope, he's factoring that in. I don't know exactly what he spent on Okada. There were rumors going around about, these ridiculous numbers. I'm sure Okada is getting paid very well, but some of the numbers that were out there are fake. They're not real numbers. But he spent big for Okada and Ospreay and Mercedes.
And he re-signed MJF.
And he re-signed MJF, which he should have. That would have been ridiculous for him not to. So I'm sure MJF is getting paid really well too. But again, to me, that is the biggest difference to what we were just talking about with those guys 5 years ago in WWE. Those guys were not being utilized. Those guys, they had no value to Vince. If they did, they would have been pushed. They would have been bigger stars. They wouldn't have wanted to leave. That was the only reason he was doing that. In this case, it's not the only reason that Tony Khan wants to keep Swerve. He's invested a lot in Swerve. He's built his television show in many ways around him. He wants to hold on to him, just like Jon Moxley got a 5-year extension, right? He wants Jon Moxley's a part of that company now through 2027.
I get what you're saying. I'm trying to correlate it in baseball terms. Listening to you talk, it's like Tony Khan's building a Yankees dynasty. But when the Yankees spent money and bought every fucking free agent on the market, they won world championships. I don't see Tony Khan winning world championships by
and
keeping
people bitched about that too.
I was one of them. I know.
Right.
So I don't see Tony Khan building a championship team and winning championships here. I feel like he's not getting any return on his investment, though they will spawn it off as AEW's growing and we're going into Australia in February and Wembley Stadium and Arlington. All these things, they try to cover up all the wrong and the decrease by bringing in this talent. If the talent's not really generating any interest, how do you have this roster not generate the interest that we all know they should be at? I don't get it. Like, I find it to be ridiculous that he's spending the amount of money that we're rumored to be hearing on these people. And granted, if I was Swerve, I'd take the contract too, but I don't see how you're Tony Khan spending all this money and you're looking at MJF, Mercedes, Okada, Ospreay, and Swerve, and that's like 30% of your fucking payroll. That's crazy to me. It doesn't make sense to me.
And you could say that he is overpaying for certain people, but this idea that, again, if WWE believes this, that it's bad for the sport. It's just bad.
No, it's bad for WWE is what it means, really.
That's really what they're talking about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at here. I'm not saying that Tony Khan isn't necessarily spending a little too much on certain people, but at the same time, I look at it and go, you know what? Good for the wrestlers to get that bag, because for so long there were a lot of wrestlers, unless you were at the very top of the card, and those guys get, especially in WWE, whatever they may get paid in their contracts, they would always talk about how, we also make money off the video game and merch, and they used to get pay-per-view bonuses, and so they were well taken care of. But for so long, so many wrestlers, they don't get paid what they're worth, or they get paid, what people might think is a lot of money, but then they have to pay for their own road expenses and stuff. And so unless you're a really top star, there are guys who can be on television and they can be struggling, right? And I'm hoping that is less of the case now than it would have been years ago. But when you think of all the money WWE makes, and UFC is a great example of this too, that's been talked about as well. And there are other people who can speak to the specifics of that whole, the inequity of that. But there are a lot of fighters who don't make a lot of money, and UFC is making more money than they have ever made in their history. WWE right now, making more money than they ever have before. I talked about Bash in Berlin. They're going out there on all these international PLEs, and they're waving their dick around, and they're boasting about, we just set a new gate record. We just set a new gate record. $1 billion from Netflix, $1 billion from Fox. And they're going around and talking about all this stuff. Relative to the amount of money they're bringing in, the talent, I'm willing to bet you, the percentage of money that goes to the talent is still probably pretty fucking low. So you know what? If some of these guys are going to go out there and make a lot of money, I'm certainly not going to sit here and say, it's bad for the sport. No, it's bad for WWE, because they can't dream of paying these guys, in some cases, anywhere close to what some of these people are making. If they don't want to pay them, they don't have to pay them. If Tony Khan wants to, that's his prerogative. And there may come a day where he's like, all right, you know what? I can't do this anymore. But to say that it's bad for the sport, we really know what they're talking about when they say it.
I don't know why they just don't stick to what they need to do, why they're worrying about AEW. Listen, Tony Khan worries about WWE more than WWE worries about WWE in most cases.
They worry about each other. They both do it. They both do it.
But Tony Khan's going to put himself in a situation where he's gonna do more wrong for that company by the way he spends, and WWE won't have to do anything to really kill them off. There's nothing to worry about there from WWE side on what AEW is doing. But, and like I said, go out and make your money, man. I'm not going to sit here and tell you how much money to make. If it was up to me and Jason would be making as much money as humanly possible. So, Swerve wants to make his money, go make your money. Mercedes, Okada, great. WWE, they handed out pretty hefty contracts to Charlotte and Bayley and Randy Orton, and they signed a whole slew of core talent that they have there, homegrown talent that they have there. I don't know what their problem is, but like Jason said, it's all about WWE not getting what they wanted, and they wanted to cry because Swerve didn't want to go back there, and Daniel Garcia opted to choose AEW, and MJF didn't go over there. It's like, whatever.
Yeah. Ospreay. The comments that Triple H made on Pat McAfee's show, right?
Yeah.
About Ospreay, the backhanded comment that he made. That's why Ospreay responded to it on Dynamite, because he was bothered by what Triple H said. It was whatever it was, something to the effect of certain guys don't want to work as much or grind as much. It was sour grapes. That's all it was.
Well, Ospreay could put on one match and fucking work as much as a WWE talent does in a week. Give me a break.
No, but it was insulting, and I can understand why. Now, did Ospreay have to go on TV and use television time on Dynamite to throw comments at Triple H? No. But I can understand why he would have been bothered by that. It was a bullshit comment for Triple H to make, but it was sour grapes. That's all it was.
Guys, we are wrapping up here and coming to an end. We have 2,800 in here right now. Oh, my goodness. We got Super Chats are open. One more piece of business we got before we get to the Super Chats, and that's Dynamite. I wanted to get Jason's opinion on this for you guys here because I think it's one thing. I'm curious to see if he thinks it's another thing. What did you think of Jon Moxley's promo that opened AEW Dynamite on Wednesday? Did you get the Shane McMahon vibe that I think it is, or do you think it's something completely different? Because we did see Moxley cut that cryptic promo, and then he showed up later in the show and beat up two geeks in the back with Marina Shafir, and then my interest levels kind of sank like the Titanic at the end of the show. What'd you think of Moxley on Dynamite last week?
Yeah, I mean, that was the whole reason that it was designed that way, I think, was to get people thinking it was Shane and talking about Shane. Because Tony Khan, say what you want, I mean, about his creative ability and whatever else, he's not a stupid person. And so he knows what people would be talking about when Moxley had that line about how this is not your company anymore. And so he got what he wanted, and everybody started talking about Shane. I do think it probably is leading to him being involved. That's what I think. Now, in what form? What form is that going to take? I certainly hope it's not any kind of takeover, like an invasion type thing, because I just think that's going to fall flat. But I do think it probably is leading to Shane being involved in some way. The Marina Shafir thing, I don't know if maybe he's putting together a crew of shooters. I don't know. I don't know where that's headed. Is he still part of the Blackpool Combat Club, or is he done with them?
He did mention Darby too. I don't know what's going on there.
Well, that's the other thing. He wants to have a conversation with Darby. We don't know what that conversation is going to be about. And is that going to cost Darby when he has his championship match at Grand Slam?
Yeah. Where does Shane come in? Does Shane come in at Grand Slam? Does he come in on the 5-year anniversary show? We don't know. We don't know if he's coming in, if those two dates have any correlation to Shane McMahon. But, yeah, that's what everybody was talking about. And
that was the point.
Yep.
That was the point, to get people talking. Is it going to make a difference in the numbers?
No.
Probably not.
No.
But we'll see. We'll see where this story goes. I've made my thoughts clear on Shane being involved. I have no interest in seeing Shane McMahon in AEW. Nor is bringing in Shane McMahon going to be any kind of a game changer for Tony Khan. It's going to turn things around. It's not. But if they can craft an interesting story, we'll see where it goes. The suggestion I threw out there, we still haven't heard about this TV deal. And we've been hearing about this now for months, and it was supposed to be done by now, and there still hasn't been any official word. But let's assume that that's coming soon. If they were bringing Shane in, the question becomes, well, how do you explain that? What role is he playing? Why is he on TV? Why is Tony Khan okay with him being on TV? They could tie it in with the TV deal. Like when the deal is announced, if they want to throw a storyline hook in there, they could tie it in with the TV deal. And Shane could be coming in by request of the network or by Warner Brothers Discovery. And, if they wanted to blur the lines somehow, maybe that's one way to go about doing it. But, again, my interest level in seeing Shane on TV and involved in this sort of thing is very low. But it'll get people talking for a few weeks. I don't necessarily see it having much of an impact in the short term on the numbers. But if he shows up, I guess we'll find out how many thousands of extra people Shane is worth.
Yeah, it could be something. Could be something, at least for the short term. The McMahon documentary is coming out on Netflix. I mean, the McMahon name's going to be in the news everywhere for the next 6 weeks following that. So it might be a good business move to bring in Shane for AEW. We'll see what happens.
I don't know. Maybe on second thought, maybe that isn't such a good idea.
I don't know. We'll see.
That might not be the conversation they want people to be having.
Guys, thank you very much for joining us on episode 64. We're going to get into all of your questions, comments, and concerns right here on TNT. Make sure you guys follow us on social media. Follow us on YouTube. Everything you need is linked down below for both of our socials and our YouTube channels. Hit that thumbs up. There should be no less than 1,000 likes. We have 2,800 people in here, man. I need to see another 100 likes, and then we'll be at 1,000. That's the goal tonight, so thank you guys very much. Hopefully you enjoyed the discussion. And make sure you guys go check out all the other content on this very channel. We got some great shit coming up, and then Jason and I will be in Chicago on Thursday. So hopefully we will meet and greet some of you guys at the House of Glory show in Logan Square. Let's start at the top here. We got Ali for 25 months. Thank you, Ali. My question for you and Jason is, will AJ Styles have one more title run, or has he already achieved everything in WWE? I think this is AJ's last year in WWE. His last contract.
Really?
Yeah. I think he ventures off somewhere else.
Yeah, he got himself into the best shape of his life, and I feel like they're probably going to throw enough money at him to, why would he go anywhere else at this point?
I don't know, man. He's always wanted the match with Kenny Omega.
Well, we don't even know when Omega's going to be back. Apparently, he's not really that close still to coming back. So who knows? He's got to stay healthy. Look, Omega's had some battles, man. He's ravaged his body, and I don't know how many more big matches he's got left in him at this point.
Sidro with a 2. Solo thinks KO may turn for Bad Blood. Randy after, or Randy and then KO. Either way, it doesn't matter.
Or both.
But we did discuss that both going heel probably could be beneficial for both, yeah. Sidro also says, I guess Odyssey Jones' Odyssey ended before it began. Yeah. I mean, you want to make fun of it. Yes, that's exactly what happened. Beyond the scripts, 34 months. He says 2 more months, exclamation point. Thank you, brother. Stainer with a 199. Bring back Mario Kart Mondays. No. Absolutely not. Michelle with a $2 super chat. Does Seth need to come back a heel to feud with Punk? That's a good question. I'm really 50-50 on it. I think WWE would keep Rollins as a babyface. I think Punk is probably the one I want to see a little bit more into the heel tendencies. Jason, I don't know about you.
Well, I mean, if Punk wrestles Gunther at Survivor Series, you mentioned the possibility of Rollins factoring in or costing him or getting involved. I mean, he would almost have to be a heel if that were the case.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they want to turn him heel. What do you think it would be better for him to go heel? Or if, let's say, that was going to be the WrestleMania match, you kind of leave it alone the way that it would have been this year and let them be as they are, and the fans fix up.
I think you let it be as it is and let the fans dictate what happens. That's the way to go. Michelle, thank you. Project Libertad with a $5 super chat. What lasted longer, the game Concord or Odyssey Jones' main roster run? I have no idea what game that is, and Odyssey Jones is finished. So he lasted, 3 weeks? 4 weeks? Beyond the Script, $9.99. What's up, JD? Just passed 10,000 followers on TikTok. Oh, my goodness. 7,300 on X. Thank you and the entire OTS family, all because of you guys. Well, congratulations, bro. 10,000 followers on TikTok is no small feat. Mr. Team Bringo, the 199. Who can cut a better promo, JD or Solomonster? Well, I don't know. This guy's the commissioner, so I'm going to go him.
Mm-hmm. I've cut promos before.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe I'll have to book a great debate. Remember the great debate between Paul Heyman and Jerry Lawler on Raw?
Yeah, Jason's got some underrated promos that they have on the IG House of Glory page. So go check that out if you can.
Yeah, go check them out.
You'd think he'd be taking acting classes.
I should.
You ain't hype with a $5 super chat. No disrespect. My kid asked if kindly Kayin is covering wrestling. My response is, this is Evil Kayin, son. You're awesome, bruv. I don't know who that is. Evil
I don't know
Kayin?
what was just said.
I don't know, me either.
Evil Ken?
Kayin? K-E-Y-I-N? Kayin? I don't know.
I have no idea.
Taking super chat advice from Demeter Bullion, I see. Andrew Cool with the 199. You think Omos replaces Odyssey Jones and joins the New Day? No. Now, the less Omos we see, the better.
Omos was at the event yesterday. There was a hot dog eating contest. And it was Kobayashi, I think, and Joey Chestnut. And I think WWE sent Rey Mysterio and Omos. And I don't know whose corner they were each in, but they were there.
I was going to say, did he compete? I'm like, oh boy, he probably...
No, well, I mean, he would blow them all away.
Alex with the $10 super chat. Brother JD and Solo with no pay-per-views in December and January. Do you see them adding a pay-per-view out of nowhere or focusing on the first Raw on Netflix as a pay-per-view level show? Can you see Roman or Cody showing up on that Raw? I think that's going to be a loaded show. Everyone, all hands on deck, is going to be there. Cena's going to be there, yep. And no pay-per-view in December and January. I quite like it because it does put heavy focus on the weekly television shows, and the Royal Rumble is the Royal Rumble, so it doesn't really matter at that point.
Yep.
Black Wolf with 18 months. How's it going, fellas? Headed back to New Jersey after a visit to Miami. I have a lot of changes to make. Please bring a hog show to Miami so I can go. I'd love to be in Miami. We will certainly think about it. Hollywood Guy with a $2 super chat. Will a triple threat work between KO, Randy, and Cody? I would rather not.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather keep it one-on-one.
Yeah.
You could do the individual match. You could do Orton and Cody, or Orton and Owens. Maybe if Owens ends up not turning. But will we get it? I'm going to say no. I think they'll keep it to singles.
Sidro with a $2 super chat. In WWE, Lyra is a top star in the pecking order. Jesus.
Her stock is soaring. I heard that too.
Yeah. And she's bringing Natty next week. I think that stock is going to fucking take a nosedive.
Oh, they're going to be in Calgary, so Natty will be over.
How great.
They're going to be in Canada.
M. Andrade with a $4.99 debate. Who will turn heel on Cody and challenge him for the title, Owens or Orton? I'm going Orton. Goose.
I think both of them are.
Eventually.
I think both of them are going to challenge him because I think Owens is getting at least one more match, and then we'll get Orton.
Chat saying Lyra flew down to NXT tonight. Oh boy. Bird Girl.
Well, it is that time of year, where they fly south.
Yeah. Goose with a $4.99. Do you have any insight as to why Megan Bain isn't signed by WWE, TNA, or AEW? She seems like a can't-miss prospect. She's very statuesque, I will tell you that. She's a very beautiful woman, very good in the ring. I don't know why. I don't have a good answer for you, man. Maybe it's not her time.
I just know that we are very fortunate to have her in House of Glory.
Yeah.
And she is our champion right now, and she's going to be there on Thursday in Chicago, defending her title against Kylie Ray. Yeah. So as long as she's with us, we're happy to have her.
Yeah, Kylie Ray is a good story in herself, man. Battling alcoholism, sober for
Chicago
almost
native.
2 years. Yeah. We got one from Mid-Most Market, 36 months. Thank you, brother. I've not been around much due to this election cycle, but I'll always be a VIP now, going on 37 months. Love watching this channel grow. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Saya with a $5 super chat. I'm sorry, but this CM Punk bracelet angle was one of the dumbest Walt Disney Kids type storylines I've ever seen for grown men on WWE television. Well, he did say he's Taylor Swift for men, so. Take that as you want. But I wasn't bothered by the bracelet. It's important to Punk. McIntyre had nothing else to take from him, so why not? You know? I don't mind it. Beyond the script with the $4.99. Remember, Seth embraced Hell in a Cell. Yeesh. Yeah, I would rather not. One of the fucking most legendary rants I've ever done. Then Goldberg and Wyatt in Saudi, which no good. Matthew Urban with the $2 super chat. I'm hoping for Rollins versus Bronson Reed at Bad Blood. I think Rollins is more hurt than people are really letting on, so I don't think he'll be back for Bad Blood. Don't know exactly what's wrong with him, but it sounds like he came back too soon. Lab Baby with the $2 super chat. Y'all forgot about Rhodes and Rollins. Oh, yeah, that's right. Hell in a Cell.
Oh.
How could we forget that?
I don't know.
Look at us.
What year was that? That was in 2020.
That was, yeah, after WrestleMania, right? Yeah.
2020. That was after the Edge and Seth one. Yeah. How could we forget that?
I don't know. Jesus Christ.
Wow.
That was a good one. Yeah. Scary, but good.
It was tough to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beyond the script with the $4.99. I miss Pat McAfee already.
I don't.
He's all right.
I mean, I'm okay with Pat, but like I can't say, oh man, I miss him. Like,
yeah.
I think it's good to have a break from Pat for a while, so I'm fine with it.
The Juliet 316 with a $5 super chat. Have you talked about Hogan claiming to have signed the new 5-year contract? Also glad Def Rebel didn't screw up Julia's entrance. Well, I didn't hear Julia's entrance yet. I gotta still watch NXT. May watch it on the plane when I go to Chicago. But Hogan signed a new 5-year contract with who?
Supposedly with WWE.
Oh, good for him, I guess.
Yeah, right.
I'm sure that created educated discussion online.
I'm sure it was a Legends type of type of deal.
Jonathan Peters with a 5 months. I'm 30 minutes delayed, but TNA people said multiple WWE athletes' appearances were canceled for Slammiversary when the mass travel issues happened that day. I watched some of Slammiversary just because of Joe Hendry, but I didn't really hear anything about that. And I don't know who was supposed to show up anyway. Not like anybody major was going to show up.
No, I was kind of hoping maybe AJ would show up.
Yep.
You know, make an appearance there. I don't know that he was ever scheduled to though. I don't know that the weather caused a major name not to be there.
Nick Williams with a $5 super chat. Solomon said there was a bit of a bird, yeet, and spider issue at the on the podcast yesterday. I had another spider on the wall here. I had to kill live on the Raw show yesterday.
What do you got? Like a nest somewhere over there?
I don't know.
Hiding out? You ever see the movie Arachnophobia?
Yes. That's
you
me.
might have something like that in your basement or something. Like
I don't know, man. We have pest control coming over here. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, down by the bar, like up in the corner. It's like the queen is waiting.
No, thank you. No, thank you. Arabian Night, $6.99. Will Bad Blood be a bigger match card? Raw alone has 4 matches with Punk versus Drew, Rhea versus Liv, Gunther versus Sammy, maybe Priest versus Finn, Jay versus Braun. Yeah, it's something I mentioned earlier in the show. I mean, these in-between pay-per-views, outside the major pay-per-views, the big 5, I mean, a lot of it's coming off Monday Night Raw right now. Or a lot of it's being carried by Raw. SmackDown's just not hitting the way it should, but hopefully that changes when Roman and the Bloodline story takes off.
Well, that's why I said we need Roman and Solo with Bad Blood.
Yeah.
And that would be a big SmackDown match to get on that show. That and then Cody's title.
Sidro with a $2 super chat. Maybe a hot take, but I see Julia winning the Royal Rumble. I do not. She may be in it, but she's not winning.
I see a cameo, but no, she's not going to.
Hologram, thank you for the re-up, brother. Appreciate you. Jose Perez with a $4.99. Good evening, gentlemen. I agree with Tessitore likeness tomorrow, but his cadence reminds me of Mean Gene Okerlund. Do you guys see it as well? I heard that a little bit. I don't know if I see it, though.
No, you know, and I hate to even say this, but like, there was a little bit of Joe Buck in there, I think.
Yes, that's a good one.
Yeah, I heard that. Not Mean Gene, more Joe Buck.
God, I hate Joe Buck.
Oh, that's why I said I don't know if that's a great thing necessarily, but.
Oh, man, listening to him and all those Yankee World Series, man, it makes me want to vomit, bro. No, thank you. Jose, thank you, brother. Aman G with a 4.99. Big fan of the show. Keep up the great work. Seen a couple of people say this. Do y'all see any possibility of Cody being in War Games with Roman? No. Now, Cody will defend the title at Survivor Series. Angel Alago. I'm sorry, Jason, want to say something?
I was just going to say, Cody and Roman, I think they need some separation.
Yeah. Angel Alago with a $100 super chat. Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Here's another bomb following yesterday's to the best duo in the business. Thank you, Angel. Much appreciated, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Hopefully you are well. Again, thoughts and prayers out to your family. BW Rosas with the $2 super chat. We are getting Julia vs. Perez on CW 10-1. Yes. Also, saw the venue you got for Hog in Chi-Town, plus a 3 main event headline that show. Hope you all have a blast there. Hope Hog comes to Northern California soon. Yeah, well, I mean, let's get through Chicago first, man. I don't want to be on a plane for 6 hours, let alone an hour and a half, so we will see. Metalhead Forever with 32 months. You guys are the greatest in the world. TNT Forever. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, man.
Mohammed with a 2. Don't forget, we still have Crown Jewel in November. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Crown Jewel. Yeah, can't wait. Who are they going to request this time? Is Logan Paul going to be back?
Yeah, we were talking about the international shows. These shows remind me more of the early Saudi shows.
Yeah.
Where nothing typically really happens and they don't feel special. Because the Saudi shows now, they've done a 180. Like the Saudi shows now are a lot more eventful, I feel like, and they feel more important than they used to. But these international PLEs remind me a lot of the early Saudi shows.
Yeah. Eddie Melendez with a $5 super chat. I'm in the Army. You guys are awesome. Keep up the good work. Keeping me entertained. Keeping me entertained. I'm sorry. Tony Khan is the Steve Cohen of pro wrestling. Who's Steve Cohen? Do you know a Steve Cohen?
I don't. But
Eddie,
I was going to say the thank you and thank you for your service.
Yes, Eddie. Thank you, brother. And we are happy to keep you entertained while you are doing your thing. You got to let us know who Steve Cohen is, though. Playboy Borby with a $1.99. Do you guys think AEW soured on Britt after All In? I do. I'm not afraid to admit it. I think the company's moved on past the doctor.
Can't say I blame him. If some of the stories are true about different incidents and different things. I mean, look, she came back after so long away and she was suspended. I mean, if there's stuff going on behind the scenes that Tony Khan has to deal with and is being forced to deal with, I wouldn't be shocked if they were to sour and maybe put a little less emphasis on her for a while. Wouldn't shock me.
Oh, he's the Mets owner. Oh, I didn't know that. You should know that.
No, Steve Cohen.
Oh, I said Cohen. I'm sorry.
Cohen. I'm like, who the hell is that? That's why I didn't know.
Steve Cohen. I'm sorry.
Steve Cohen.
Yeah,
yes,
another money mark.
Of course, yes. Yeah, well, kind of like AEW. What do we have to show for it?
Yeah.
We have nothing to show for it. I mean, but to be fair, though, they've lately. So I will give them credit for that. But yeah, unfortunately, we still have nothing to show for all the money he spent.
Lauren, thank you for the $1 super chat. Appreciate you being here. Juan Castle with a $1.99. Tony Khan should bring in Cornette to book shows. Sure. I think we need somebody there besides Tony, for sure, though. Michael Leach with a $5 super chat. Have you guys heard the rumors that WWE's helping TNA get a new TV deal? I did not.
I've not heard anything about that.
Kazama Fury with 25 months. NXT done Ethan Page justice, who is another star they can immediately remedy in NXT from AEW catering.
Ricky Starks.
Yeah. If Daniel Garcia goes there, sure, him too. But did they really remedy Ethan Page? I find him to be, he's good. Don't get me wrong. Very good promo.
Wait. Remedy Daniel Garcia. In what way? What are they going to do with Daniel Garcia that Tony Khan isn't already doing?
Give him a character, man. Give him fucking something.
He had a character. He was doing the stupid dance.
That's not a character. That's a gimmick.
So what would his character be? You want him to be like a Tony D'Angelo character?
Sure. Put him in the family.
Really?
Yeah. Why not? Ethan Page, listen, he's a great promo. He's very serviceable in the ring, but I find him to be, as NXT champion, I find him to be boring. I'm sorry. That's just me.
He's a great douchebag heel.
Yeah.
there's nothing that, like about him that makes you want to like root for him. So I think he's good in the role. Is he, again, like you said, he's perfectly fine and serviceable in the ring. He's not the most dynamic champion in the ring. He's not going to go out there and have the best matches necessarily. But I think he's doing a good job as NXT champion. And when he goes to the main roster, I think he could be a solid guy at that Intercontinental or US title level when he initially comes in.
Yeah, I could see him in LA Knight for sure. Lauren with a 2. We need Orton versus Cena at WrestleMania. I think that would be great. I'd love to see it. Learning Tree. 199. Hi, guys. JD and Solo, we are ready to debut at Hog. No, thank you.
No. No. We're not doing that. I'm going to put the security on notice to make sure that doesn't happen.
Lauren with a 2. Who do you think will dethrone Mercedes Moné? Not a clue. She ain't losing any title for the foreseeable future.
Well, maybe when the time comes, Camille.
Yeah.
I was going to say Jamie Hayter, but Jamie Hayter needs to... we need to build to Jamie Hayter and Mariah May at some point.
Arabian Night with a 279. Mox crew people wronged by TK, i.e. Ricky, Wardlow, Miro. Hey, who knows? Maybe. Maybe not Ricky, but Wardlow and Miro, sure. Lauren with a 2. When do you think Evolution will be inducted into the Hall of Fame? I don't know.
Batista still hasn't had his in-person induction, has he?
No.
It's going to be a while.
Yeah, let's get him first. Eddie Melendez with a $2 super chat. Mets owner, LOL, yes. Yeah, I made, he's Steve Cohan to me, I guess.
Yeah. That's like, hey, look, it's Rick O'Shea. He's in AEW. Good to see old Rick O'Shea.
And Alex with a $5 super chat. Is there a WrestleMania match that WWE may be planning for 41 that you think storyline-wise will make sense to take place at Mania 42 rather than 41? Yeah, Rock and Roman. Mm-hmm. That answers your question, Alex.
The biggest one. There ain't no match bigger that they would be planning.
No. But that is all we got for you guys, man. We had a solid 2,800 people in here tonight for episode 64. We appreciate you guys very much. It's going to be a great week. Jason and I will be in Chicago on Thursday. We have AEW tomorrow, SmackDown on Friday. And then the next major show we have coming up is All Out. That's this weekend. Holy shit.
Yep.
On the 3 a.m. night. Can't wait.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be great. And then a podcast the next day.
That's crazy. And then Raw. And then we got Grand Slam to look forward to as well at the end of the month. So thank you guys for being here. And as always, hit that thumbs up. You guys know the deal. We need 29 likes for 1,000. So I don't know where you guys are. You 29. Let's do it. Thank you for the super chat love. Make sure you guys follow Jason on social media and on YouTube. Everything you need from him is linked down below. And as always, he's going to sound us off for episode number 64. What do you got, man?
Well, JD mentioned it, and I'll mention it again here. He and I are going to be in Chicago on Thursday. House of Glory is having a show at Logan Square Auditorium. And first 3 rows are sold out. There's still general admission tickets available. Still waiting on confirmation about when and where we may be streaming the event. That's still TBD. But we got some big matches on that card, including Dijak making his debut. We have got Zilla Fatu in his first title defense. He won a championship at our last event. Mustafa Ali is back. He's a Chicago native. Robbie Eagles has been added to the show. It's going to be his first Hog match in about 5 years. So a lot of names and a lot of big matches. If you are in the area, come on down. Would love to see you. And if you see JD or I, don't be afraid to come over and say hello.
There you guys go, man. We'll see you in Chicago if you're going to be attending the show. And then obviously AEW Dynamite tomorrow night, and all the appropriate podcasts to follow this week. Thank you guys very much for all your support. We will see you right back here for episode 65 next Tuesday on Tuesday Night Titans. We'll see you guys later.